Fugua shouted, if you're not begging, then why are you kneeling here? You're home, so why are you kneeling? What are you doing kneeling here? Qin Tianrui was flustered by this. He hurriedly said, no, it's not our village. Just as he was speaking, he suddenly remembered something and looked at Qin Fugua. First, he checked his head. There was nothing on it. Then he looked at his waist. There was no white towel. Next, he checked his shoes. He was wearing a pair of small leather shoes, not white ones. Looking around, he didn't see anything related to a funeral. This made Qin Tianrui unable to hold back his tears, and he quickly started wiping them. Uncle, wait. Why is there a theater performance? What is happening in the village? Upon hearing this, Qin Fugua became excited and hurriedly told Qin Tianrui, Xiao Mo invited a theater troupe. Your second grandmother will turn 88 soon. Xiao Mo has done well for himself and invited a troupe to perform. Starting today and planning to continue until the 29th of the lunar year. This troupe has dozens of people. Oh, this child. I don't know how much money he spent. Look over there. Is that a house being built? That's Xiao Mo's house. And look at those streetlights. I'm telling you, our village's streetlights were all installed by Xiao Mo. Did you see the irrigation station? Now it's a laundry room. Someone is specifically washing clothes for us. All of this was funded by Xiao Mo, and there's more, the surveillance cameras. Yes, that's the guardhouse. Did you see those in security uniforms? That's not someone here to watch the performance. That's our village's security. Let me tell you, Xiao Mo has an office building in Dongyang City. A whole building with many floors. He also has a villa in Dongyang City. However, when it comes to outsiders, Qin Fugua wouldn't speak like this. But facing the young man who has finally returned to Qin family village, Qin Fugua was filled with excitement and eagerly counted everything one by one. Qin Fugua was happy. Qin Mo has made something of himself. And the young people are back in Qin family village. As he spoke, Qin Fugua couldn't hold back any longer. He grabbed Qin Tianrui and said, let us go. I'll take you to find your second uncle and the others. Let us go. Qin Tianrui was pulled along. While being dragged, he glanced at his son, signaling him to follow. However, he felt quite awkward. He had bought firecrackers and paper, thinking that Qin family village was deserted. As a result, after letting off the firecrackers, it turned out to be a completely different situation, which made him very upset. He had cried for half a day on the way. Now he was treated as if he was begging. Fortunately, this time Qin Fugua was too excited to ask detailed questions. Otherwise, Qin Tianrui wouldn't know how to respond. It seemed that Qin Fugua was overly happy and pulled Qin Tianrui into the crowd. The stage was bustling with excitement. The joyful occasion made Qin Fugua even want to ask the troupe to stop performing first, so that everyone in Qin family village could see who had returned. But he knew the rule that once a performance started, it couldn't be interrupted midway. So he pulled Qin Tianrui around, saying to Qin Huai, third uncle, look who this is. Who is it? Tianrui, my goodness. He patted the shoulder of his second aunt, look who it is. Tianrui. The old lady was momentarily stunned. When she came to her senses, her eyes were filled with tears. She kicked Qin Jianjun, who was watching the performance, saying, Jianjun, look who it is. Jianjun was almost knocked over by the kick. In no time, the elderly people of Qin family village had stopped watching the performance. No matter how good the opera was on stage, it couldn't compare to the young people returning to the village. In an instant, a group of elderly people from Qin family village were touching their heads and patting their shoulders, both crying and laughing. Why did you just come back? How many years has it been? You still remember to come and take a look at us. Xiao Mo comes back every year. And you haven't been seen for so many years. How could this child be so ungrateful? Qin Tianrui, who had managed to hold back his tears, was once again moved to tears. After a series of apologies and comforting gestures, along with kneeling and bowing, they finally managed to briefly soothe the emotions of the elderly people in Qin family village. Just then, Qin Mo, who had been running around, also noticed something was off in the crowd. Where had all the elderly people from Qin family village gone? Before he could ponder, Lu Jiaming approached. Boss, it seems like someone has come to your village. All the elderly people have gone over there. Do you want to go and take a look? Someone has come? Qin Mo was surprised. He couldn't figure out who could have come to Qin family village to make all the elderly people leave. However, Qin Mo noticed a group of elderly people gathering in the distance and walked over casually. At that moment, Qin Huai hurriedly called out to the crowd and Qin Tianrui. Quick, call Xiao Mo over. Yes, call Xiao Mo. Tell him his second brother is back. Just as he was speaking, Qin Mo shouted to the crowd, I'm here. As soon as he finished speaking, the elderly people parted, and Qin Tianrui appeared in front of Qin Mo. Qin Mo was taken aback for a moment, and then asked suspiciously, second brother? Qin Tianrui raised his hand to wipe the corner of his eye. Xiao Mo, it's me. At that moment, Qin Mo was filled with joy. Chapter 97, another member joins. Qin Mo was genuinely surprised to see Qin Tianrui. He never expected to have the chance to see him again. Without a second thought, he rushed forward and gave Qin Tianrui a big hug. Feeling a wave of emotion wash over him, There was a reason for Qin Mo's excitement at seeing Qin Tianrui. There was about a 10-year age gap between them. And when Qin Mo was younger, Qin Tianrui had taken care of him due to the circumstances in Qin family village. Whether it was fishing in the river or climbing trees to catch birds, it was always Qin Tianrui who played with him. Moreover, there were no young people in Qin family village, and with no parents or siblings at home, Qin Mo often faced bullying from other kids his age and was even called a wild child. During those times, it was always Qin Tianrui who stood up for him. Later, when Qin Tianrui went out to work, he would regularly send things back home, including gifts for Qin Mo. When he returned, he would even buy Qin Mo new clothes. When it came time for Qin Mo to pay tuition, Qin Tianrui also contributed a lot of money. Even when Qin Mo was in college, he frequently received living expenses from Qin Tianrui, even though he had been a son-in-law for a long time by then. Having not seen each other for a long time, how could Qin Mo not be happy to see Qin Tianrui now? He was overjoyed and appeared very excited. Additionally, aside from the brotherly bond, Qin Mo had a somewhat selfish thought. Qin Tianrui was also from Qin family village and still young. The system rewarded talents from Qin family village, but most of the villagers were elderly. While things were fine now, who knew what the future held? To put it bluntly, everyone has to die eventually, and there are no exceptions. If all the elderly in Qin family village were gone, Qin Mo would truly be left all alone. The newcomers were uncertain in terms of their status. If the system failed, there would be nothing that could be done. But now, things were different. With young people in Qin family village, Qin Mo's system would surely benefit. Of course, such thoughts only flashed through Qin Mo's mind momentarily. His happiness at that moment had nothing to do with those thoughts. When did you come back, second brother? How did you come back? After feeling joyful, Qin Mo couldn't help but ask Qin Tianrui. The corners of Qin Tianrui's eyes were still a bit moist. After a brief moment, he spoke up. I just arrived. Qin Mo continued to ask. You should have told me in advance before you came back, so I could at least pick you up. You have my number. By the way, are you back for the new year? Did you bring your wife? He casually inquired. Qin Tianrui fell silent for a moment, then forced a smile. I got a divorce. Upon hearing this, Qin Mo was taken aback. He hadn't planned to ask further, but hearing this made him curious. The elderly people around them immediately grew anxious. Divorced? Why? What happened, Tianrui? How could you get divorced? Weren't you doing well? It was understandable that the elderly were worried. They hoped that both Qin Mo and Qin Tianrui, as the rare younger generation, would be living well. Qin Tianrui took a deep breath and forced another smile. It's nothing. She cheated, so I got a divorce. Oh no. How could this happen? After hearing Qin Tianrui's words, the elderly were left in shock, followed by a chorus of head shaking and sighs. How could this happen? How could this happen? Even the second grandmother began to wipe her tears. For some people, divorce might be a normal occurrence, but for the elderly, it was not a trivial matter. It was a huge deal. Seeing the elderly like this, Qin Tianrui tried to put on a brave face and comforted them. Hey, what's the big deal? Divorce is normal, right? Besides, it's better this way. If I hadn't divorced, I wouldn't even be able to come back to Qin family village. Now that I'm divorced, I'm back, right? As soon as Qin Tianrui finished speaking, Qin Fuqiao said sadly, You're still happy? You've hit rock bottom, and you're still happy. Qin Fuqiao looked at Qin Mo and shouted, Xiao Mo, your second brother is already begging for food. Begging for food? Upon hearing this, Qin Mo was instantly bewildered. What did that mean? Did he leave with nothing? Had he fallen to the point of begging? Qin Mo was completely stunned. However, Qin Tianrui, who was initially a bit sad, was also confused by Qin Fuqiao's words. He really did get a divorce, but when did he start begging? He couldn't afford to be sad now. He hurriedly said, I didn't. When did I start begging? I'm not begging. Hearing this, Qin Fuqiao retorted, You're not begging? Then why are you kneeling there? You were so shocked that you didn't even realize you were already in Qin family village. Qin Fuqiao was very saddened. It was hard for him not to feel hurt seeing his own kin in such a state. Qin Tianrui opened his mouth, almost wanting to explain. What kind of meal did he want? Kneeling and banging his head, setting off firecrackers. Wasn't that making it seem like the Qin family village was holding a funeral? He thought it was for some elder who had passed away. In a moment of excitement, he ended up kneeling at the village entrance. Now he realized after all the fuss that it was actually a celebration of longevity. He wanted to speak the truth, but how could he say that? After a long time of stammering, he finally said, I just came back after so many years, I feel sorry for you all. So I knelt down as soon as I entered the village. The firecrackers were to celebrate coming back. His explanation was quite forced. It left Qin Fuqiao stunned. Huh, no. When you were kneeling there at first, I thought you were begging. Oh, what a misunderstanding. Qin Fuqiao felt quite embarrassed. He even took out money, 200 yuan. To be exact. Seeing this scene, Qin Mo couldn't help but laugh. Hearing Qin Fuqiao, he really thought Qin Tianrui had fallen to the point of begging. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. In an instant, Qin Mo said, All right, enough of that. Big brother coming back. kneeling and setting off firecrackers. Isn't that what should happen? He then asked Qin Tianrui, big brother, now that you're divorced and back, you're not leaving again, right? Not leaving. Qin Tianrui said solemnly. I won't go back there again. I'll die right here in Qin family village. Hey, don't say such gloomy things. Right. The old folks quickly scolded Qin Tianrui. However, upon hearing this, Qin Emo was very happy. There was no other reason. Qin family village had gained another member. Chapter 98. Is there such a thing as a welcome gift? Not only was Qin Emo happy, but the old folks were also extremely pleased with a young person returning to Qin family village. He was no longer the only one left alone. At this moment, Qin Emo remembered. Let us go. Let's not talk here. Let us go home. The sounds of the opera troupe continued, but at this time, the old folks of Qin family village had lost interest in listening. But that was fine. It didn't interrupt the troupe from continuing to perform. There were still plenty of people from the surrounding villages who wanted to listen. Qin Emo led a group of old folks, pulling Qin Tianrui toward his home. Upon entering the house, Qin Tianrui felt a bit dazed. The village hadn't changed much over the years. At least, this house looked the same. Qin Mo's home was familiar to Qin Tianrui. He had visited many times before. It was just that there were quite a few more things now. At this moment, Zhao Wensheng was busy preparing the ingredients for the next morning's meal, with several cleaning ladies helping out. Seeing the busy master chef, Qin Emo suddenly remembered. Big brother, you haven't eaten yet, have you? Qin Tianrui didn't stand on ceremony. Not yet. Qin Emo hurriedly turned to Zhao Wensheng. Master Zhao, is there anything to eat? My big brother just came back and hasn't had a meal since arriving in the village. The master chef waved his hand. No problem, that's easy. I have some buns, and I'll heat up some soup. Great, thank you. As soon as he finished speaking, a voice came from behind. Whose child is this? Qin Huai looked surprised at the child beside him. Only then did he notice that a little kid had been following him. Upon hearing his words, everyone instinctively turned around to look. Qin Tianrui then realized that he had almost forgotten about his own son. He quickly smiled and explained to everyone. Oh, almost forgot. Come here, Yang. Lu Yang came to Qin Tianrui's side. Qin Tianrui hurriedly explained. Third grandpa, second grandma. I forgot to mention, this is my son. His name is Lu Yang. As soon as Qin Tianrui said this, the elderly folks around them immediately became lively. Oh, I was wondering who this child looks like. My goodness, so this is Yang. Come, let grandma take a look. Good boy. You really brought a child back and didn't say a word. Complaints filled with surprise came from the crowd. Qin Tianrui was initially enjoying the attention, as the elderly people of Qin family village were very happy with his return. But now, upon meeting Lu Yang, he was suddenly bombarded with complaints, vividly illustrating the affection of the older generation. Good boy, are you hungry? Quick, go find something to eat. There's milk and other things in Xiaoma's room. Third brother, quickly bring a bottle. The elderly folks were busy looking and patting shoulders. They were overjoyed to see such a scene, and Qin Tianrui could only smile helplessly. Just then, Lu Yang spoke up. I'm not called Lu Yang. I'm called Qin Yang. I want to move my household registration here and take my dad's surname. Upon hearing this, the elderly folks of Qin family village were momentarily stunned, but soon became even happier. Qin Tianrui finally reacted. Yang, this is second grandma and third grandpa. Grandpa. The elderly folks of Qin family village responded joyfully. Your little uncle. Little uncle. Haha, good. Qin Emo didn't expect that in the blink of an eye. He had gained a new title. He was so happy that he could hardly contain his smile. Fortunately, Qin Emo reacted quickly. Wait a minute. Wait for me, he said, and went directly into the house. In a short while, Qin Emo came out with a pile of things, leaving Qin Tianrui dumbfounded. Here, take this computer. It's new. Your little uncle hasn't even used it. And this phone, it's also new. Here's a red envelope. Hold on to that too. This watch is also for you. And these are all your welcome gifts. Qin Emo was delighted, presenting a huge pile of gifts. All these items were rewards from the system, including various electronics. He had plenty of them, and now was the perfect time to give them as welcome gifts. However, others might not understand the value of these items. But Qin Tianrui certainly did. As for the watch, he couldn't tell its worth, but that was another story. But who has ever seen a red envelope thicker than 5 or 6 centimeters? Is that really a red envelope? That looks like it's just wrapped in red cloth. How much does that cost as a greeting gift? And that's not all. A brand new phone, quite expensive. As for the computer, I don't know the price. But it's definitely not cheap either. With such extravagant gifts of phones and computers, the watch they gave must also be something expensive. Is this how greeting gifts are given? Qin Tianrui immediately panicked. No, I can't accept this. Xiao Emo, why are there so many things? My goodness, all of this is new. How much did this cost? Wait, is this really a red envelope? Qin Tianrui hurriedly declined. Lu Yang was also dumbfounded. In response to this, Qin Emo directly said, take it. It's all worthless stuff. I have plenty of these. The greeting gift for my nephew has nothing to do with you. If I say take it, then take it. Saying this, Qin Imo directly shoved the items into Lu Yangyang's hands. To be honest, Qin Imo didn't really care about the value of the items he brought out. But he wouldn't say much about it. He had gathered all the cash from home, probably around 30 to 40,000. As for the phone and computer, they were probably worth around 10 to 20,000. Of course, the most valuable was the watch. He specifically chose one suitable for children. It wasn't difficult to find one since he had plenty of system rewards. Although it wasn't the most expensive, this watch was worth at least 100,000. This means that in the blink of an eye, Qin Imo had given away over 100,000 without even batting an eye. Once Qin Imo finished speaking, the elderly folks also began to persuade him. Just accept it. Oh, Xiao Imo gave it to his nephew. Just take it. Don't speak. It has nothing to do with you. Xiao Imo gave it to Yang Yang, not to you. Qin Tianrui couldn't hold back any longer. But how much does this cost? Voices chimed in. Xiao Imo isn't short on this. Xiao Imo has made it big now. No matter how much it is, just accept it. After such a discussion, Qin Tianrui truly couldn't hold back. He recalled what Qin Fugua had said before. Xiao Imo, Uncle Fugua said you have an office building and a villa now. Can you tell me what's going on? Qin Tianrui looked at his younger brother Qin Imo, his eyes filled with confusion and curiosity. Chapter 99. Never Forget Your Roots. Qin Tianrui was a bit bewildered. He couldn't understand how Qin Imo had gone from having nothing to owning a villa and an office building. If he remembered correctly, Qin Imo hadn't graduated for long. Before graduating, he was still relying on living expenses. How in just a few years had he achieved all this? He didn't even know the slightest bit about it. Facing Qin Tianrui's curiosity, Qin Imo smiled slightly. He responded, it's nothing much. I made some money from business last year. But then the situation turned bad, and the business closed. When I came back this year, my second uncle and the others heard about it and donated 200,000 to me. I took that 200,000, made a few million in the stock market, and then made a bit more with those millions. When Qin Imo said this, it was quite understated. Of course, where did the money come from? Naturally, it came from the system. What Qin Imo said was all false, yet every word was true. However, it was only with the 200,000 that the system came into play and the money was made. This central idea isn't wrong. However, in the eyes of the villagers, they truly believed that Qin Imo earned his money this way. Little did they know, Qin Tianrui was even more stunned by this. So, you made all this money in such a short time? Yes, Qin Imo replied with a smile. He even added, mainly, I had good luck. You even bought villas and office buildings? Isn't that so? The old folks might not fully grasp what that meant, turning 200,000 into so much. But after hearing this, Qin Tianrui couldn't help but gasp in shock. Wow, the exclamation slipped out. Qin Tianrui couldn't hold back and ended up asking, so how much do you have now? In assets? Qin Imo was about to respond, but unexpectedly, Qin Tianrui quickly interjected, no, don't tell me. Just knowing is enough. In response to this, Qin Imo casually replied, as for cash, let us not talk about that. If we're talking about assets, it must be a few small goals. Qin Tianrui gasped again upon hearing this. He hurriedly said to Qin Imo, you must never mention this to outsiders. Oh, I shouldn't have asked just now. I spoke too much. The meaning behind Qin Tianrui's words was clear. One should not flaunt wealth. Qin Imo didn't hide this from him, which made Qin Tianrui very happy, but he also regretted asking. Yet, he was still overwhelmingly pleased. You've done well. Really great. You've become successful. That's wonderful. Qin Tianrui felt genuinely happy for Qin Imo. His joy was unmistakable. However, as time passed, Qin Tianrui looked at Qin Imo seriously and said, Xiao Imo, you have the ability now. Don't spend your money recklessly. I don't ask for much from you, but now, seeing Qin Tianrui like this, Qin Imo replied earnestly, second brother, what is it? Need to borrow money? Support? Or something else? Qin Imo awaited Qin Tianrui's answer. In fact, he hadn't even considered these things. He understood Qin Tianrui well. Even so, Qin Imo was unhesitant. In a moment, Qin Tianrui said, even though you're making money, you can't forget your roots. Normally, I have no right to ask you for anything, but you know how we've grown up. You're aware of how our grandparents and uncles treated us. Now that you have money, I hope you won't forget your roots and can do something for our village and take a good look at our grandparents and uncles. As expected, Qin Tianrui's words had nothing to do with him. Upon hearing this, Qin Imo couldn't help but chuckle. Before he could say anything, the elderly folks around started chiming in. Oh, don't say that. Little Imo knows about this. You don't know how much he has done. He even installed air conditioning. Our village has security now. Can little Imo really forget where he came from? As a group of elderly people looked at Qin Tianrui while saying this, they couldn't help but complain. It's all about wasting money. We can't stop him. What if he goes bad? If you don't let him spend money? He'll say he has a rich friend who has nowhere to spend it and goes gambling. These words reached Qin Tianrui's ears, and he finally realized that Qin Imo hadn't forgotten his roots at all. In fact, he was going all out. Earlier, Qin Fuwa had mentioned it casually. But Qin Tianrui hadn't paid much attention. Now, he listened carefully and started to understand. Did he really install a laundry room? Air conditioning, street lights, and surveillance cameras? There's even security and cleaning staff? And restrooms and water towers too? Is it really worth it for Qin Family Village to have a bus service? Qin Tianrui was once again taken aback. When he finally processed this information, he could only smile wryly. He realized he had worried too much. As for not letting Qin Mo spend money, talking about a friend losing a bet, the elderly folks could still be concerned about that. But for Qin Tianrui, it was clear this was just Qin Mo's excuse. It was both amusing and frustrating. All right. That's good. Qin Mo wasn't forgetting his roots at all, which reassured Qin Tianrui. However, he soon added, but this is too much. Your nephew is still young. Qin Mo waved his hand and said directly, then just keep it. Do I look like I'm in need of these things? The elderly folks once again started to persuade him. Yes. Just keep it. It's pointless to refuse anymore. Tianrui, if you keep this up, you'll become distant. Hearing this, Qin Tianrui took a deep breath and said, all right then, Yang, you can keep it. Okay, Lu Yang, or Qin Yang, happily promised and tightly hugged all the items. After all, he was still a child. He might not care much about the watch. But computers and phones were naturally very appealing to kids. Seeing Qin Tianrui agree, Qin Mo was very pleased. He quickly turned to Qin Tianrui and said, second brother. Since you're back, don't leave again. I have a lot to do. Your return is just in time to help me. Seeing this situation, Qin Tianrui looked puzzled. What else is there to do? Haven't we already taken care of everything that needed to be done for Qin Family Village? Facing Qin Tianrui's confusion, Qin Mo smiled slightly. Just at that moment, a system notification echoed in Qin Mo's mind. Chapter 100. I can't take it anymore. Ding. The host is to reward the villagers, giving Qin Yang a meeting gift, and receives a system reward of 1 container ship. Note, the system will place an order with the shipbuilding company soon, and the production time is approximately 1 year. After 1 year, the reward will be officially distributed as a physical item. To avoid the host waiting too long, the host can exchange for cash with a 20% discount within a year. This sudden system notification left Qin Mo stunned. First of all, the reward is a container ship? Goodness. Qin Mo knew the system was powerful. But he didn't expect it to be this powerful. How much does a cargo ship cost? That's at least 4 small goals. In terms of value, this time the system reward is equivalent to 4 to 500 million. What kind of concept is this? Qin Mo was completely taken aback. Putting aside the reward itself, the system's note was something that had never appeared before. An order for production? Qin Mo realized what this meant. According to the system, it would place an order for the cargo ship with the shipbuilding company. Then, in about a year, the company would complete the production of the ship. However, what confused Qin Mo was that rewards were usually given directly, right? Why does this one need to be ordered? What is going on here? But after a moment of thought, Qin Mo understood. A container ship is a big item, and maritime transport involves a lot of procedures. It shouldn't be difficult for the system to create one out of thin air. However, in such a case, there would likely be loopholes. But if the system orders it under Qin Mo's name, from production to manufacturing, it would be different. It's a legitimate process, and no one could point out any flaws. Even when he gets it, there wouldn't be any issues. To put it simply, the system was considering Qin Mo's situation, avoiding the troubles and problems that could arise from something appearing out of nowhere. Understanding all this made Qin Mo sigh in admiration. The system was becoming increasingly considerate. And this thoughtfulness didn't stop there. If he found the manufacturing time too long, he could even directly exchange for cash, albeit at an 80 value. Perhaps cash is easier for the system to handle. In summary, the system is impressive. Regarding whether to choose the ship or the cash, Qin Mo thought for a moment and decided not to exchange for now. I actually don't need the money right now. Even after a year. When I build a house, the money will be enough. Plus, there's still the reward. For the time being, I'm not in a hurry for cash. A cargo ship is definitely better. Not to mention selling it. Even starting a shipping company in the future would be highly profitable. Moreover, during the time it takes to build the ship, I can exchange for cash whenever I want. There's no rush. Qin Mo calmed his thoughts. At the same time, looking at his little nephew Qin Yang, there was a great sense of satisfaction. This kid just arrived and already brought such a big gift to Qin Mo. Seeing that Qin Mo was silent, Qin Tianrui curiously asked, "What's wrong?" Upon hearing this, Qin Mo casually replied, "It's nothing. I just remembered something. I placed an order for a cargo ship at the shipyard, and I'm calculating how long it will take to build." "A cargo ship?" Qin Mo explained with a smile. "Yes, I ordered it some time ago. It's that kind of container cargo ship used at sea. The stock and futures markets can make money. But we can't rely solely on that. Office buildings are just for fun, not a serious business. So I plan to enter the transportation industry and bought a cargo ship." Qin Tianrui was stunned. Isn't it that kind of large cargo ship that carries containers at sea? Yes. My goodness. Qin Tianrui couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Seeing his reaction, the elderly nearby asked, "Oh, little Imo bought a ship? Tianrui, what's wrong? It's just a ship, right? A cargo ship? What's the problem? Tianrui, what are you talking about?" Qin Tianrui hurriedly explained, "Grandparents, do you know what a cargo ship is? Isn't it just a freighter?" This left Qin Tianrui speechless. However, he had a point. It was clear that the elderly were not surprised at all. They seemed to think of a cargo ship as just a regular freight vessel. There is a river near Danyang where boats run all day, so in their eyes, a cargo ship was probably something like that. Qin Tianrui couldn't help but describe. This cargo ship is not like the small ones you think. It's at least 300 to 400 meters long, at least 60 meters wide, and it's several stories high. Buying one of these costs. He looked at Qin Imo. How much? Qin Imo scratched his head and said, "A few billion, I guess." Wow. As soon as these words came out, the people of Qin village immediately understood. My goodness, 300 to 400 meters long. That's almost as long as our village. Several stories high? Oh my heavens. A few billion? Oh my goodness. Qin Imo often boasted about his wealth in front of the elderly, but they weren't quite clear about how rich he really was. But now it was different. Buying a ship worth a few billion just like that? Was this normal wealth? This was simply extraordinary. Little Imo, can this ship make money? Little Imo, what if it loses money? The elderly in Qin village spoke with a tremble. Qin Imo reassured them. It won't. Transporting a load could earn millions. Hey, I'll make it back sooner or later. If it really doesn't work out, I can sell the ship and still make money. There's no loss. With this, the elderly in Qin village finally felt relieved. Qin Huai even patted his chest and said, No, I have to go watch a play. You two can chat. If I don't leave now, my heart can't take it. I'm leaving too. Xiao Imo, this is getting bigger and bigger. I'm scared. I can't listen anymore. I'm out of here. Xiao Imo, arrange something for your second brother. I'm leaving. The old folks can't handle it. We need to hurry and go. Afraid that if we listen any longer, something shocking might be said again. Qin Imo looked at this scene with a smile. In an instant, he turned to Qin Tianrui and said, "Second brother, your house is uninhabitable. Although the elders help you out every year, the low terrain has collapsed part of it. It's too dangerous to live there. For now, you can stay with me." Qin Tianrui took a deep breath. He patted Qin Imo on the shoulder and said, "All right, I'll listen to you." After that, he sighed, "Hey, I didn't expect the little kid who used to follow me around has grown up so well. If I had known, I wouldn't have put up with so much back then." This piqued Qin Mo's curiosity. He asked, "What is going on over there?" Qin Tianrui sighed before he began to speak. Chapter 101. This divorce was the right choice. When Qin Imo asked, Qin Tianrui immediately sighed. After a moment, he began to explain. Upon hearing Qin Tianrui's experience, Qin Imo frowned deeply. Qin Tianrui spoke lightly about it. But Qin Imo could tell that his life over there had been miserable. At first, the couple had a good relationship. Although his father-in-law and mother-in-law didn't seem to like him and often made trouble as a son-in-law. Qin Tianrui had already mentally prepared for this and managed to endure it. However, after about 2 years, it became increasingly difficult. His in-laws became more and more unreasonable. Despite Qin Tianrui working diligently, he was seen as a failure. The criticisms piled up, and eventually, even his wife began to see him as lacking ambition. Later on, Qin Tianrui had to juggle work, take care of the children, and even handle laundry and cooking. Essentially, he took on all the household responsibilities. But even with all this acquiescence, he didn't receive sympathy or understanding in return. As time went on, the couple's relationship became unbearable. Ultimately, his wife had an affair, even bringing her partner home while Qin Tianrui was working outside. What was clearly an affair, his in-laws treated as if it were their son-in-law coming home. In the end, Qin Tianrui could no longer endure it and decided to divorce. He left with nothing, just walked away. Fortunately, Qin Yangyang understood his father's hardships and resolutely followed him back to Qin family village. That's basically the situation. To be honest, upon hearing all this, others might have different reactions, but Qin Imo felt a surge of anger. His brows furrowed tightly. Seeing his expression, Qin Tianrui couldn't help but say to Qin Imo, "Hey, it's nothing. I've already divorced. From now on, everyone will go their own way, and it won't matter to each other." He seems to be quite open-minded about it. But this is the reality. After Qin Tianrui said this, Qin Mo's brows relaxed a bit. "Forget it, if we're separated. It's better to stay at home than anywhere else. I'll just stay in Qin family village from now on." Hearing Qin Mo's words, Qin Tianrui nodded slightly. In a moment, Qin Tianrui remembered something. "Right, you mentioned you still have a lot to do. What else are you planning?" "I think our village doesn't really need anything else. Also, this security guard." Thinking of the security guard, Qin Tianrui couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time. Does a village really need a security guard? Is that necessary? They must have money. Qin Tianrui could only sigh like this. Isn't it just because they have money? They even bought a cargo ship. In response to Qin Tianrui's words, Qin Mo chuckled softly. After a moment of thought, he said to Qin Tianrui, well, I plan to tear down and rebuild all the houses in our village after the new year. There was really no need to hide this from Qin Tianrui. In fact, it needed to be made clear so that he could get an extra helper. For example, in the matter of persuading the elderly in Qin family village. Once Qin Mo finished speaking, Qin Tianrui was stunned. What? You want to tear down and rebuild all the houses in our village? Wait a minute. How much will that cost? Hearing this, Qin Mo chuckled and said, I estimate it will take about 10 to 20 million. 10 to 20 million? Hiss. Qin Tianrui gasped in shock. Anyone who didn't know might think he was influenced by Qin Mo's tone. However, Qin Tianrui was actually clear that for Qin Mo, 10 to 20 million was really not a big deal. But having money and spending it like this are two different things. Wait, are you serious? Don't joke around. Are you sure the elders will agree? And as long as the houses are livable, isn't that good enough? Spending 10 to 20 million to build houses in the city is unheard of. Even if you have money, you should still save where you can. Wouldn't it be better to keep that money for yourself? Interestingly, just before this, Qin Tianrui had told Qin Mo not to forget his roots. Yet now he was saying that it would be better to spend the money on himself. This can't really be blamed on Qin Tianrui. Qin Mo hadn't forgotten his roots. In fact, he was actively spending money on Qin family village. But this seems a bit heavy to handle. What kind of good person would rebuild all the houses in the village? Is this giving back to the community? No, it's just throwing money around. Seeing Qin Tianrui's reaction, Qin Mo cheerfully said, 10 to 20 million is not much. The key is that I have this money. It's really nothing. By the way, there is still a house being built at the village entrance. The elders think I'm building my own house. But actually, I'm building a community center. Once it's done, there will be dormitories above where the security guards can live, and below there will be a supermarket and activity center. It will provide entertainment for the elders. Additionally, there will be a small clinic and cafeteria open nearby, as described by Qin Mo. Hearing this, Qin Tianrui was once again taken aback. So there are even such plans? He thought Qin Mo was just having a temporary idea. He didn't expect that Qin Mo had already started on this. Even a supermarket? A cafeteria? A clinic? How could a village like Qin Family Village have so many facilities? Qin Tianrui couldn't even imagine it. What was even more surprising was that 1 or 2 million was considered not much. This left Qin Tianrui in disbelief. Wait a moment, let me process this. After taking some time to gather his thoughts, Qin Tianrui finally said to Qin Mo, are you serious about this? Of course, I've even found a construction company. All right then, Qin Tianrui, being younger and more open-minded, quickly replied. Since you have the money, go ahead and build it, but please don't rush. If you really have extra money, building houses isn't a big deal, then go for it. Our Qin family village can also have a fresh look. The elders can still live in new houses. Honestly, it's already this day and age. Other villages have buildings. And we are still in the same old Qin family village. Qin Mo immediately responded, I think the same way. Our village doesn't even have decent houses. After this discussion, Qin Tianrui completely expressed his support for Qin Mo. He even added, I'll help you keep it a secret. The reason he was so open-minded was that he didn't have money. If he had money, he might have done the same things as Qin Mo, even without a system. After Qin Tianrui finished speaking, he reflected on a crucial matter. By the way, is there a house for me in the new buildings? Upon hearing this, Qin Mo smiled broadly. Of course, even if you hadn't come back, I would have prepared a set for you. Hearing this, Qin Tianrui burst into laughter. That's great. I really made the right choice in getting divorced. Coming back means I get a new house. This is truly unexpected. Chapter 102. A month's salary gone. Qin Tianrui was overjoyed. He never expected to come home to find a new house. Initially, he thought that despite the divorce, he would work hard to earn money to build or buy a house to ensure his son would have a good life. He didn't expect that now he could benefit from his brother's success. Had he known his brother was so capable, he would have returned much earlier instead of enduring so much hardship. But it was better late than never. Seeing his brother's capabilities, Qin Family Village was about to undergo a transformation. Compared to the troubled expression he had on the way here, the joy on Qin Tianrui's face was almost radiant. In his excitement, he pulled Qin Mo to chat a bit more. Meanwhile, Qin Mo arranged a place for the two of them to stay, a room with a broken window and new bedding. It was certain that they wouldn't have a separate room for themselves. The old house has only a few rooms. And it's already a good thing that one of them is livable. Isn't that how Qin Mo lives? Qin Mo was initially thinking that it was inconvenient to live there. He thought about the hotel where the opera troupe was staying, which had some vacant rooms. He intended to suggest to Qin Tianrui that if it didn't work out, they could just stay at the hotel. It would be cleaner and more convenient, definitely better than the old house. However, as soon as Qin Tianrui heard this, he shook his head repeatedly and directly stated, It's understandable for the opera troupe to stay at a hotel. But you want me, a person from Qin family village, to stay at a hotel? What? Do I not have a home? Since I'm back, no matter how shabby this house is, even if I have to sleep in a tent, I won't go sleep somewhere else. In the end, Qin Tianrui added, if you don't let me stay, I'll go back to my broken house. So what if it has a big hole? At worst, it'll collapse and crush me. And I won't even need to be buried. Qin Mo couldn't help but be amused and exasperated by this. He quickly retorted, I was just saying that. Look at you. If you want to live in a broken house, then go ahead. If it crushes you, so be it. You're making it sound so profound. Hearing Qin Mo's banter, Qin Tianrui laughed heartily. He knew that one shouldn't speak like that to outsiders, but when it came to brothers, there was no need for such pretenses, and it wouldn't affect their relationship. After they finished their chores, Qin Mo remembered that the opera troupe was still performing and there were people who needed to be attended to. He called out, and Qin Tianrui followed him over. When they arrived, the elderly folks from Qin family village were already seated. It was clear that they loved watching the opera. Of course, it wasn't up to Qin Mo and his brother to handle the performance. In no time, a tray of cigarettes was back in Qin Mo's hands. Qin Tianrui was also busy, distributing peanuts and other snacks. The difference was that while people greeted Qin Mo, they would chat a bit with Qin Tianrui. He had to socialize with everyone he met, which was understandable. At over 30, he was significantly older than Qin Mo, and he was familiar with many people from the surrounding villages. He had even worked alongside some of them before, so it was natural for him to be more well-known. At this moment, compared to earlier when they were watching the opera, the elderly folks from Qin family village were even happier. Setting aside the cost of inviting the opera troupe, just the fact that a young person had returned to the village, even bringing along a grandchild and great-grandchild, was enough to make them even more joyful. While listening to the opera, some of the elderly folks were even swaying their heads. Some would pull Qin Yangyang over, saying, this is the red envelope your third uncle gave you. Take it quickly. To which another elder would chime in, you old man, stop talking nonsense. Little Mo and Tianrui call you third uncle. That makes you one generation younger. How can they still call you third uncle? Oh wait, that's not right. The generations are mixed up. I'm your third great uncle. Here, this is a gift from your great-grandmother. The elderly folks didn't hear the brothers talking and took Qin Yangyang away as well. It seems they were listening to the opera while preparing red envelopes. Qin Yangyang is quite sweet-tongued, calling out great-grandfather and great-grandmother one after another. Whenever he sees Qin Fugua, he occasionally shouts grandpa. Those being called tremble in response, saying all right. All right. Oh, while pulling out money, continuously taking out several bills. Gifts for meeting, New Year money, firecrackers. This money is for your father to buy you clothes. Isn't it a bit early for New Year money? Qin Fugua, the village secretary, probably spent most of his monthly salary already. You can see how happy he is. Qin Mo is over there handing out cigarettes and water. Lu Jianming stands in front of an elderly lady and sees Qin Mo coming over. Mom, this is our boss. The old lady quickly stands up and exclaims to Qin Mo, boss, you're impressive. So young yet so capable. You'll be remarkable in the future. Jianming, a bit reckless, adds, if he doesn't do well in the future, you have to be understanding. Even though he's all grown up and about to be a grandpa, he still acts so immature. It's annoying. The old lady seems to be complaining about her son, but in reality, she's speaking well of him. At her age, she's still worrying about her son. It's clear that no matter how old he is still a child in her eyes, and she is still concerned about him. Hearing this, Qin Mo smiles and says, you're saying that, but he does a great job working for me. I don't have to worry about anything. I should thank him. That's right, that's right. The old lady beams with joy at Qin Mo's words. As soon as he leaves, she reminds Lu Jianming, your boss is great. Although young, he is capable. You must work hard for him. Seeing that it's getting late, Qin Mo quickly finds the opera troupe to discuss the end time for today's performance. The troupe is also quite stubborn. They just arrived today, and after a long journey, they've been singing all night. The two performers have been on stage repeatedly, making Qin Mo feel a bit awkward. It's already past 10 o'clock. The countryside is different from the city. At this time, the village is already dark, and most people from nearby villages have probably gone to bed. Qin Mo wants to let the troupe rest earlier so that the elderly audience can disperse since it's chilly outside. He discusses with the troupe leader, who straightforwardly says, I plan to sing until midnight. Qin Mo waves his hand. 10:30 is fine. You just got here today. You need to rest well. There are many more days ahead. All right then, the troupe leader agrees and quickly informs everyone. By 10:30, after one last performance, today's show concludes. Looking at the crowd below, Qin Mo climbed onto the stage to take the microphone. He quickly addressed the audience, saying, I want to let everyone know that this is it for today, and I truly apologize. Our troupe just arrived today after a long journey. We need to rest early. If anyone hasn't had enough, come back tomorrow. We'll be performing until the 29th of the lunar year, so I guarantee you'll have plenty to enjoy. With Qin Mo's words, A wave of lively chatter erupted from the audience. Everyone below had smiles on their faces. Come back tomorrow, come back tomorrow. I said it's getting late. I have to go back to sleep, but I don't want to leave if he doesn't finish performing until the 29th. Oh my. There's still more to listen to. As people from the surrounding villages started to leave, it was easier with Qin Tianrui helping Qin Imo manage the crowd. Before departing, someone passed him a cigarette. The faces in the crowd were all smiles, seeing the arrangements made by the two young men, Qin Imo and Qin Tianrui. The elders from Qin Family Village were also smiling. In their words, there are young people to hold the fort in Qin Family Village now, so we old folks don't have to do much. While Qin Tianrui was busy sending off others, Qin Imo was arranging transportation for the troop. Lu Jianming drove the vehicle to take them to the hotel. There were too many people to fit in one car, so those who drove themselves took their own vehicles. Before getting on the bus, everyone from the troop greeted their benefactor, Qin Imo. The head of the troop even discussed with Qin Imo. What time shall we start singing tomorrow morning? Come early. We'll wait for you to have breakfast. Eat well first. If it's not possible, then 10 o'clock will do. Just arrange it as you see fit. Let those who need rest take a break. Just as Lu Jianming drove the troop away, a voice echoed in Qin Mo's mind. Ding. Qin Imo never expected that after inviting the troop back, he would receive the system's reward before they even left. To his surprise, the reward came immediately after the performance ended, a cash reward of 5 million. It was directly credited to Qin Mo's account, and he even received a notification from the bank on his phone. Qin Imo was overjoyed. This reward was given daily. Wouldn't he be receiving it every day from now on? He got 5 million on the first day. Not only did he recoup the cost of inviting the troop, but he also made a profit. With over 20 days left for the performances, if the rewards continued to be generous, he could really hit the jackpot. Qin Imo couldn't help but smile at the notifications on his phone. Seeing Qin Imo grinning foolishly at his phone, Qin Tianrui couldn't help but come over. What are you so happy about? Qin Imo casually replied. The business money has come in. How much? Qin Imo handed his phone to Qin Tianrui. Take a look. When Qin Tianrui glanced at it, his eyes widened in surprise. Wow, 5 million? Qin Tianrui was completely stunned. He knew that Qin Imo was wealthy, but he never expected that 5 million could be transferred at any moment. The subsequent long string of zeros dazzled him. After a moment of exclamation, he couldn't help but say, I can't believe it. If I had known you had such great capabilities, I wouldn't have become a live-in son-in-law. I might as well have stayed at home, waited for you to graduate and become successful. And then you would have built a house for me and helped me find a wife, right? Qin Tianrui's face was filled with regret. He thought it would be great if his brother could help him find a wife, so he wouldn't have to be a live-in son-in-law. Qin Imo chuckled and quickly replied, well, it's not too late anyway. You're divorced now, so you'll have to marry someone eventually. How about this? I'll transfer the 5 million to you. You can use it to find a wife. Just give me your bank account number. After Qin Imo said this, Qin Tianrui, who had just been feeling regretful, gave Qin Imo a sideways glance and then silently walked away. He saw Grandma Song Chunmei coming home from a distance and hurried over to support her. Grandma, let me walk you home. He didn't forget to complain to her. You have no idea how wild Xiao Imo is now. He just casually said he would transfer me 5 million to help me find a wife. What kind of person is that? I wouldn't even look at his small amount of money. If he could transfer 10 or 8 billion, that would be more like it. Grandma listened to Qin Tianrui's complaints and chuckled. In the distance, Qin Imo couldn't help but shake his head and laugh at what he heard. Qin Imo didn't genuinely believe that Qin Tianrui thought 5 million was too little, even if Qin Tianrui talked about 10 or 8 billion. If Qin Imo truly took out that much money, Qin Tianrui would surely be shocked and then demand 100 or 80 billion instead. He never intended to actually ask for it. He was just joking around. Qin Tianrui was happily anticipating that Qin Imo would build a house for him and also happily let Qin Yangyang accept Qin Mo's gift. But when it came to giving money, the bond of brotherhood didn't work that way. Of course, if Qin Tianrui really had an issue, he wouldn't be polite with Qin Imo. But that was another matter altogether. In a short while, Qin Imo went back to sleep. By the time he was tidied up, Qin Tianrui had returned. Before sleeping, Qin Imo chatted with Qin Tianrui again, mainly about the house building issue. The old folks definitely won't agree. We'll have to keep it a secret. How can we keep it a secret? I have a villa and a hotel in the city. We can find an excuse to take them to the city. By the time we come back, the house will have already been demolished. Qin Tianrui gave Qin Imo a thumbs up. You're clever. If worst comes to worst, we can just say we're taking them on a trip. By the time we return, the house will be gone, and we'll have to build a new one. Qin Imo laughed at Qin Tianrui's words. Aren't you the same? Hee. Qin Tianrui immediately grinned. The old folks from Qin Family Village would never expect this. The two brothers had nothing to do that evening and were actually discussing tearing down the house they had lived in for half their lives. Not only that, Qin Tianrui even said, I'll find a stick tomorrow. I need to practice. This piqued Qin Mo's curiosity. Practice what? Qin Tianrui replied nonchalantly, practice for impact resistance. If the house is gone and the old folks want to hit someone, I won't be afraid of pain. Wow, is this being prepared for the worst? Qin Emo was stunned by Qin Tianrui's words, and he instinctively said, all right, I'll find you a stick tomorrow so you can practice well. Once you're good at it, I'll just say it was you who did it. That way, if they really do hit someone, they'll only hit you and not me. Qin Tianrui exclaimed, wow, you really have a plan. In chapter 104, Qin Tianrui praised Qin Emo, who just chuckled at the compliment. What is so great about it? We're brothers, after all. Isn't that what you do? Speaking of which, now that Qin Tianrui was back, Qin Emo felt considerably more relaxed. This relaxation wasn't because he had to repay Qin Family Village for their hard work, but because with Qin Tianrui around, it meant someone would share the pressure of giving back to the village. How could that not be a relief? Qin Emo had already made up his mind. Although Qin Tianrui mentioned practicing with a stick as a joke, Qin Emo took the idea seriously. If the elders still wanted to scold someone, he planned to let them go find Qin Tianrui first. After all, he intended to run as far as he could. The next day, Qin Family Village was still bustling. After the morning performance, the troupe didn't slack off and continued their show. Fewer people from the surrounding villages came during the day since everyone had things to do, but there were still some who showed up. Plus, the elders from Qin Family Village ensured that the troupe had an audience, which made the performances even more lively. Qin Emo suggested to the troupe that they could skip the morning show and perform longer in the evening. This way, the troupe would have time to rest, and those from the surrounding villages would have time to come and enjoy the show. Initially, the troupe leader was hesitant to accept Qin Mo's suggestion, feeling a bit embarrassed since the troupe earned a good amount of money performing all day. If it were someone else, they would want to perform nonstop from morning till night. However, Qin Emo thought that the performance schedule wasn't a matter of just 1 or 2 days. There was still plenty of time until the 29th of the year. Eventually, the troupe did adjust their performance schedule, and Qin Emo made sure to inform the people from the surrounding villages who came to watch. This way, they wouldn't come for nothing. And so, the days passed one after another. Qin Emo was able to earn rewards from the troupe every day, and as the afternoons and evenings rolled in, Qin Family Village became increasingly lively. Initially, only people from the nearby villages came to enjoy the performances. However, later on, people from the village several miles away also came over, bringing liveliness for a few days. Until the 7th day of the new year, Qin Emo became quite busy. Although Qinjia Village was lively earlier, Qin Emo still had some free time. But that was no longer the case. Tomorrow is the 8th day of the new year, and the birthday banquet for the second grandmother is set for tomorrow. There's no time to relax anymore. The banquet is not held at a restaurant, but in the village, which means they have to cook for themselves. Cooking means they need to buy ingredients, right? So, this morning alone, Qin Emo ran several trips just to buy groceries. This doesn't even include drinks and beverages. Those can be delivered by others. Otherwise, just preparing these items would require a lot of running around. Besides that, they also need to prepare tables, chairs, and benches. Although Master Zhao has always catered for banquets and has all these items, they still need to be transported and set up. That's more work. On top of that, there's also washing vegetables, cleaning dishes, and managing the coal for cooking. Someone has to handle all of that. Thank goodness Qin Tianrui is back to help share some of the burden. Otherwise, just these tasks would keep Qin Emo extremely busy. Of course, it also helps that there are many security and cleaning staff in Qinjia Village, along with Lu Jiaming and others. Even the theater troupe came to lend a hand. Everyone pitched in, making these tasks more organized. Even so, Qin Emo didn't have a moment to spare. The main banquet for tomorrow. From today onwards, the side dishes had to be prepared. The side dishes needed to be more sumptuous than what the theater troupe and the villagers had eaten over the past few days. Even though they were already quite good. But that's the custom in Qinjia Village. It requires a bit more effort. This meant that after breakfast, Master Zhao began preparing for dinner. Just after having dinner, they had to start preparing the meals for tomorrow, especially for the main banquet. Speaking of which, this was Qin Mo's chance to showcase his skills. He had received rewards from the system, so his culinary skills were naturally not to be underestimated. Qin Emo had long planned to personally take charge of the main banquet, so when the evening preparations began, he mentioned this to Master Zhao. Upon hearing that Qin Emo wanted to take action, Master Zhao looked at him with a sideways glance. Then, with uncertainty, he asked Qin Emo, "You're going to cook?" The way he said it hinted at some skepticism. Of course, Master Zhao didn't truly look down on Qin Emo. After all, he was the boss and deserved respect. However, while giving respect, Master Zhao was also serious and responsible. This banquet was no joking matter. It wasn't something you could just mess around with. He didn't know about Qin Mo's cooking skills. If Qin Emo were to casually take charge, Master Zhao would definitely not agree to it. Out of a sense of responsibility, this led to a moment of doubt on Master Zhao's face after hearing Qin Mo's words. Qin Emo found Master Zhao's reaction to be quite normal. He even smiled and said, I have learned to cook outside, and my cooking skills are decent. Let me show you. As he spoke, Qin Imo picked up the knife that was on the cutting board. Master Zhao had just been slicing meat. Qin Imo straightforwardly took action. The cooking skills rewarded by the system naturally included knife skills. As Qin Imo picked up the knife, his movements were fluid and graceful, something that was evident to the naked eye. Seeing Qin Mo's performance, Master Zhao couldn't help but exclaim, Boss, you really have learned. Your knife skills seem even better than mine. Although it wasn't flashy, the slices of meat were uniform in size and thickness. It was clear that a bit of skill was required to achieve this. There were many elderly people around, and they knew it was a busy time with the main event tomorrow. They didn't listen to the play and were reluctant to leave, doing little things like adding water or stoking the fire. Seeing Qin Imo slice the meat, the elderly folks were amazed. Xiao Imo, when did you learn this? Has this kid been learning this outside for the past few years? That's great. Cooking is a skill, after all, no matter what. Having another skill to make a living is always good. Facing their praises, Qin Imo smiled broadly. Chapter 105, Taking Lessons Seriously. Qin Mo's knife skills were indeed impressive, and that was undeniable. Master Zhao had to admit it. Even Qin Tianrui was surprised. If this had been before when you weren't doing well, we could have opened a restaurant together. Of course, this was just casual talk, as Qin Imo had truly made a name for himself now. Although Qin Mo's knife skills were good, Master Zhao was still cautious. After hesitating for a moment, he said, Cooking is different from chopping vegetables. Good knife skills can only help you as a helper. Master Zhao was trying to save face for his boss, and didn't want to sound too harsh. But Qin Imo could tell, and immediately laughed. Let me stir-fry a dish for you to taste. There were fresh ingredients available, and Qin Imo didn't want to waste time or resources. He quickly cooked up a dish. He made it casually. Though he couldn't claim it was perfect in color, aroma, and taste, at least it looked good. After finishing the whole process, Master Zhao was even more astonished. In an instant, he said, let me try? With curiosity, he picked up a chopstick and took a bite. The moment he tasted it, his expression changed. He sighed and said, Boss, with such great skills, why do you need me as a chef? I've been cooking for many years, but compared to you, Master Zhao's words fell short. However, it was clear that his statement highlighted the gap between us. Zhao Wensheng was deeply moved, even showing signs of wanting to back out. It's not surprising that Master Zhao thought too much. He initially felt justified coming to be a chef and earning Qin Mo's salary. But after tasting Qin Mo's skills, he realized he was lacking. In response to his reaction, Qin Imo smiled and said, no matter how good my skills are, how can a boss have time to cook every day? I'm too busy. With this, Qin Imo was both joking and comforting. As soon as he said that, a smile appeared on Master Zhao's face. After all, no matter how delicious the food is, he's still the boss. Qin Imo doesn't have the time to cook. After expressing his feelings, Master Zhao excitedly said, Boss, do you have the same skills with other dishes? No wonder you came to cook for this banquet. Great. I'll assist you. Just tell me what to do. After a pause, Master Zhao joked, Boss, if I learn from you, don't blame me. Hearing this, Qin Imo laughed. If you really can learn, that would be even better. It would save me a lot of trouble. I can cook a bit of everything, so help me out later. The conversation between Qin Imo and Master Zhao was simple, back and forth. However, this dialogue left Qin Tianrui, Lu Jiaming, and even the elderly folks confused. The conversation had reached such a level? Just how good is the skill? Lu Jiaming couldn't hold back and said, I want to try. He quickly grabbed a pair of chopsticks and picked up some food. Once he tasted it, his eyes lit up. He couldn't find the words to describe it. The dish was simple, and the taste wasn't extraordinarily phenomenal. After all, culinary skills are linked to ingredients. Simple ingredients and cooking methods can yield varying results. But the taste ceiling isn't too outrageous. It wouldn't make someone leap for joy. Yet Lu Jiaming felt that the flavor was just right. Perfectly delicious, perfectly intense, and perfectly appealing to the taste buds. Overall, it was simply outstanding. He exclaimed, wow. Seeing his reaction, Qin Tianrui said, I want to try too. After tasting, he exclaimed, not bad, Xiao Imo. Your skills are quite something. Wow, if the two of us opened a restaurant, we'd make a fortune right here. Qin Tianrui was amazed and quickly added, Xiao Imo, you should cook from now on. You're too talented. With such praise from Qin Tianrui, how could others hold back? The elderly folks were also immediately intrigued. I will also give it a try at Xiao Mo's skills, and the security and cleaning staff are curious. Boss, can I taste it? Upon seeing this, Qin Imo cheerfully replied, everyone should try it. Everyone should try it. As a result, one by one, they all picked up their chopsticks. In the end, Qin Mo's tasting was completely waste-free. A plate of dishes was shared among the group, leaving nothing behind. It wasn't so exaggerated that not even a drop of sauce was left, but indeed, not even a single vegetable leaf could be seen. After tasting the dishes, Sun Yi was still reminiscing. Good, good, good. Xiao Imo has skills. This is all craftsmanship. I haven't eaten anything this delicious in years. The last time I had something this good was when my grandmother made fried eggplant for me when I was a child. San Yi, being in his 50s, had eaten a lot of meals. Fried eggplant isn't considered anything special nowadays. But the fact that it left such a deep impression on him is likely due to how difficult it was to enjoy a good meal during his childhood. Fried eggplant is rich in oil, and having a good meal once in a while can leave a lasting memory. Compared to Qin Mo's culinary skills, it's clear that San Yi highly appreciates them. After San Yi finished speaking, Qin Wenjuan added, "I'm different from you. I've never eaten such delicious dishes in my life." One could say that CE Qin Wenjuan has a limited experience, but it also highlights Qin Mo's cooking skills. After these two spoke, everyone present couldn't help but praise Qin Mo's culinary skills, and their compliments were heartfelt. Seeing this, Qin Mo was quite cheerful. He didn't care much about the praise. His only goal was to prepare a wonderful birthday feast. At this point, no one found it inappropriate for Qin Mo to take charge of the birthday banquet. In the blink of an eye, Qin Mo began to get busy. "Master Zhao, adjust your knife. The cut should be neither too shallow nor too deep. Don't cut it too lightly or too deeply. Got it. Also, the meat slices need to be cut as well, and the thickness should be just right. No problem. Bring over the pot. The Buddha jumps over the wall should start stewing now, all the way until noon tomorrow." Who has Buddha jumps over the wall at a birthday banquet? Qin Mo wasn't afraid of spending money at all. He firmly brought this dish to the table. Of course, while he was busy, he also directed Master Zhao with his feet barely touching the ground. However, Master Zhao was more than happy to help. From time to time, he would ask Qin Mo questions about cooking, and Qin Mo answered each one. It was evident that Master Zhao was serious about learning. Chapter 106. How can I let you pay? Master Zhao learned quickly and didn't feel tired at all. In his words, "Working behind Qin Mo for a while has given me more experience than the decades I accumulated before as a chef." This made Master Zhao quite emotional. The boss is the boss. How can someone so young have such high culinary skills? I've worked a lifetime, and compared to the boss, it feels like all my years of learning were in vain. For Master Zhao's sentiments, Qin Mo merely smiled and remained silent. His culinary skills are something that cannot be learned. Others accumulate experience bit by bit, but his is a reward from a system. How can that be compared? It's simply not on the same level. That night, Qin Mo was busy for half the night, and by the next morning around 5 or 6, he started again. Master Zhao had it easier. He didn't leave that night, and simply stayed in Qin family village to be able to get to work right away. Originally, Qin Mo planned to arrange things for Master Zhao properly, but Zhao chose to simplify matters and went straight to the security room to sleep with his bedding. As he put it, the security room was great, air-conditioned, well-lit, and with people around. Thus, when Qin Mo got up early, he found Master Zhao already preparing breakfast. Qin Mo didn't have time to prepare breakfast. All he needed to focus on was the main banquet for noon. In other households, even if they were hosting a banquet, they wouldn't be as busy as Qin Mo was. A master chef in another household could finish things at a leisurely pace. But Qin Mo was different. To be frank, there were definitely a lot of guests for today's banquet. People from 10 miles around were coming, and he had to prepare enough food for them. The local villagers already numbered in the dozens, and that needed to be accounted for. Plus, there was a whole opera troupe, which added dozens more. Just these people combined would require at least 20 tables of food. Adding in the guests from outside, the dishes would be relatively simple. Qin Mo even included the elaborate Buddha jumps over the wall dish, which shows the level of effort he was putting in. This also made things a bit more complicated. Fortunately, although Qin Mo didn't allow the elderly villagers to help, the security and cleaning staff came over. And even Aunt Wang rushed over early in the morning. They could momentarily set aside their main duties to lend a hand, which lightened the load a bit. Not only them, but even the members of the opera troupe who weren't performing that morning came over to help out, saving some time. Of course, seeing Qin Mo bustling around the stove sparked curiosity among the troupe members. "Does your boss cook?" Lu Jiaming, who had made countless trips back and forth, was thinking about bringing his mother over for the banquet while he replied, "Hey, let me tell you, you guys have no idea how amazing our boss's cooking is. If you hadn't tasted the trial dishes from last night, that would be one thing. But having tried them, I can tell you he is incredible." This was also why he was considering bringing his mother over, and he even thought about calling his wife and kids. After all, if every dish the boss made was so delicious, just imagine how good today's many dishes would be. Lu Jiaming couldn't help but let some tears flow from the corners of his eyes. He felt a bit embarrassed. After all, this was a banquet organized by the boss. Even if it were a normal family gathering, how could the whole family show up? It felt a bit awkward. While Lu Jiaming was lost in thought, a security guard hurriedly walked towards the entrance. Seeing him like that, Lu Jiaming called out, "Sun Xiao, where are you going?" "I left my phone in the security room. I'm going to get it to call my wife and ask her to come to the banquet," Sun Xiao replied. Then he thought of something and quickly approached Lu Jiaming. "By the way, Lao Lu, how much cash gift should we give?" Lu Jiaming pondered for a moment and then chuckled. "Oh, it doesn't matter. The boss doesn't care about this little money. Sun Xiao responded, that's true, but I've called my wife and kids. Even though the boss isn't short on money, it feels awkward to give less. Lu Jiaming was surprised. You still plan to bring your wife and kids? Sun Xiao replied. The boss said to bring everyone. He said everyone should come. As soon as Sun Xiao finished speaking, Lu Jiaming was instantly delighted. He had been feeling awkward just now, but now it felt good. Then I'll go back and bring my mother. Not to mention Lu Jiaming's excitement. By 10 o'clock, the table for collecting gifts was set up again. Qin Fuwa was still the one in charge of collecting the gifts, and his smile was as bright as it had been a few days ago, if not even wider. He was quite happy. In Kanjiakan, there had already been 2 celebrations this year alone. It would be hard for Qin Fuwa not to be pleased. However, when the account book was brought out last time, Qin Fuwa immediately wrote his name on it and contributed 5,000 yuan. This time, he again wrote his name first. But he didn't give as much money. He only took out 500. He wanted to contribute more, but last night, Qin Tianrui had discussed it with Qin Mo and had talked to the elderly villagers one by one. They agreed that no elderly person from Kanjiakan could give more money. If anyone gave more, they wouldn't accept it. The 2 brothers were determined to throw a fit at home if that happened, refusing to get up no matter what. So Qin Fuwa dared not contribute more. He knew that the brothers could indeed act that way. Not only would he not contribute more himself, but he would also keep an eye on the elderly villagers when they were giving gifts. In fact, according to Qin Mo's original intention, the elderly villagers of Kanjiakan didn't need to give gifts at all. Even if they set up a table, it was just to see if any outsiders came. If someone did, they would note it down. If not, it would be fine. However, the elderly villagers were unwilling. Giving a little less was acceptable, but not giving at all was not an option. It was a celebratory event, after all. They wanted to keep track of the gifts, even if Qin Mo was okay without it. After all, it had been years since Kanjiakan had such lively events. It's just a ledger. And it was exchanged for the banquet that Qin Mo organized when he bought the car. This one seems a bit too few. It's worth mentioning that ever since Qin Fuwa put his name on it, the atmosphere at the table became lively in an instant. First, the elderly folks happily took out 500 yuan each. Then, the members of the opera troupe also joined in. Qin Fuwa was surprised by this. Are you giving us gifts? You were invited by us. How could you be paying? In response, the leader of the troupe and others chuckled, one thing at a time. It's a big birthday for the elderly lady. It wouldn't be right not to give a gift. We also want to share in the joy. Hesitating for a moment, Qin Fuwa quickly called out, let me ask Xiao Mo. He hurried over to Qin Mo and conveyed the message. Upon hearing this, Qin Mo smiled and said, since they are kindly offering, let us accept it. Although they were invited, they are also being considerate. The amount of the gift didn't matter to Qin Mo, but he appreciated the sentiment. He even decided that since they had given this gift, he would add a little extra when settling the bill for the troupe when they left. After all, an entire opera troupe was dedicated to their craft. Qin Fuwa agreed to this. The troupe members knew how to distinguish things. The leader personally contributed 5,000 yuan without hesitation. Other members also contributed accordingly. If there was one family in the troupe, they would give one portion. If not, they would give individually. The amounts ranged from 600 to 800. This made Qin Fuwa feel a bit embarrassed. After all, they were there to perform. Yet, before the bill was settled, they were already contributing money to the host. However, as the troupe put it, it's a celebration. Not giving would be inappropriate. It's a big birthday. Plus, on the side, they said, Boss Qin is generous. Weavy never met such a good patron. Even in performances outside, Weavy never encountered such a great boss. Although this is a countryside, it's truly a nice place. I want to stay here forever. Qin Mo took great care of the troupe, treating them well at every turn. The troupe members felt this and performed passionately, showing their professionalism. The gift money was a result of mutual respect, which was evident. Just after the troupe had given their gifts, it was time for Lu Jiaming and the others. Lu Jiaming was also generous, directly contributing 6,000. When he did this, several security guards were stunned. Brother Lu, are you really giving this much? It wasn't that they thought it wasn't worth it, but they were quite surprised. After all, 6,000 was equivalent to a month's salary. Giving it away like this seemed a bit too extravagant. However, Lu Jiaming laughed and said, hey, it's just a month's salary. What is the big deal? It's a wonderful occasion for the elderly lady, so it's only right to give a little more. Besides, the boss treats us so well, how could I care about this little amount? Several security guards nodded in agreement. Upon reflection, it made sense. Where could they find such a good boss? A few thousand yuan essentially meant working for the boss for free for a month, right? Besides, when has this boss ever truly made them work for nothing? The new year hasn't even arrived yet. They've already received a large amount of New Year goods. Who cares about such a small amount of money when working for a boss like this? Then I'll give 6,000. Me too. Damn. I don't have that much money. Can someone lend me a bit? By the time Lu Jiaming and the others presented their gifts, the atmosphere at the table became increasingly lively. People from nearby villages showed up. Whether they came or not was up to them, but everyone was present at this moment. You're contributing 300. He is contributing 500. No one was holding back their contributions. As the money continued to flow in, Qin Fu was started to feel a bit anxious. There were too many people. He could see there were still more people at the back preparing to give gifts. It was hard not to worry. Did Xiao Mo prepare enough? So many people. Would there be enough food? Would they be able to accommodate everyone? There were even some who had no prior connection, but still showed up. Fortunately, Qin Mo had prepared adequately. He was just worried it wouldn't be enough. So, whether it was ingredients or anything else, he bought as much as he could. He thought it wouldn't go to waste anyway, as there would still be people from Kinjiakin and the opera troupe coming later. No matter how much there was, it could last for a couple of days. This was one thing Qin Fuguo didn't need to worry about. As for Qin Fuguo's doubts, those chatting nearby provided an answer. People from the nearby villages knew each other. Hey, you're contributing too? Of course. Don't I come to listen to the opera every day? I have to give a gift. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing to listen to the opera. Haha, ISNT that right? And you? It's an old man's birthday. I'm here to share in the joy. Don't listen to him. He just wants to taste the feast. These were people who had little connection but often came to listen to the opera and happened to bring gifts. They could enjoy a meal without missing the opera, and they could also share in the joy. As for the local villagers, it went without saying. They had come last time, so how could they miss it this time? However, this was just the beginning. What is your name? A middle-aged man in a suit asked with a smile. Song Qin Feng, the Qing from Kinking Ziking. Do you know it? Qin Fuguo nodded. Yes, Kinking Ziking, you are on my mind. As he spoke, Qin Fuguo looked up at the middle-aged man. The man understood and lifted the bag in his hand. He pulled out bundles of money and said to Qin Fuguo, a total of 88,888 yuan and 80 cents. Goodness. Upon hearing this, those around were momentarily stunned. That was over 80,000 yuan. Qin Fuguo was taken aback and couldn't help but ask. You and Xiao Mo. The middle-aged man smiled and replied, business partners. This man was none other than the owner of the construction company. Now that he had money, it was sufficient. A few days ago, Qin Mo had discussed the reconstruction of Kinjiakin with the construction company. The contract has been signed. We just need to find a time after the new year to send the elderly folks away and then get started. With such a large order, how could Song Qingfeng not be eager? Even if the contract hadn't been signed, Song Qingfeng was still keen on establishing a relationship with Qin Mo. After Song Qingfeng finished speaking, Qin Fuguo's hand trembled as he wrote his name. However, once Qin Fuguo was done, another person came forward. I bid 66,600. Who are you? Sir, you might not recognize me as I haven't been here before, but Mr. Qin is my boss. I am Zhou Ying, the general manager of Ruifeng Hotel. Upon hearing this, Song Qingfeng quickly turned around and asked, You're the general manager? Ruifeng Hotel is Mr. Qin's property? Zhou Ying smiled and nodded. Song Qingfeng was extremely surprised. He knew about Ruifeng Hotel. It was quite well known in Danyang. He didn't expect it to also be part of Qin Mo's assets. That wasn't all. Following this, Zhao Yulong from the Lan Yuan Building Management also came forward. I am also an employee of Mr. Qin. The Lan Yuan Building is all owned by Mr. Qin. We are tenants of the Yuanhai Trading Company, and our office is located in the Lan Yuan Building. We are also tenants of Deep Abyss Media. One by one, companies, names, and gifts came in, along with plaques and various celebratory items. Luxury cars began to appear in Kinjiakin, causing people from the surrounding villages to exclaim, Wow. Chapter 108. Still too few connections. So many people have come. Oh my, the people from Kinjiakin have really made a name for themselves outside. What kind of business must this be to attract so many people? Impressive. No wonder they can hire a theater troupe to perform until the 29th of the lunar year. Voices echoed around. While collecting money, Qin Fuguo was trembling with excitement. Good. He kept saying this, but inside, he was overjoyed. Previously, people had talked about how well Qin Mo's business was doing and how much money he was making, but the villagers weren't very clear on the details. Now, with so many people coming, it felt like they were witnessing a reality. Moreover, it was a matter of face. So many outsiders came to Kinjiakin for a feast, boosting the village's reputation significantly. At the same time, Qin Mo, who was busy at the stove, also learned about the influx of visitors, thanks to Qin Tianrui. Xiao Mo, you really are impressive. Wow, how many bosses and tenants have come? Just how big is your office building for them to all show up? Qin Tianrui was the same. He knew Qin Mo was remarkable, but hadn't seen it in person until now. Seeing this scene was equally exciting. As for the large turnout, Qin Mo was somewhat surprised himself. He hadn't expected so many people to come to Kinjiakin. He understood the construction companies being there since they were discussing a major deal. The face must be kept, and the hotel can understand this. Last time, when Qin Mo went to a certain city, he took a look around. He casually mentioned something, and seeing the boss had good news, the manager hurried over. It makes sense. The management office of the office building can understand this too. After all, Chin-mo is also a boss. He just showed up. The tenants of the office building also received the news and came over. This surprised Chin-mo. But thinking about it, it's understandable. After all, they rented his property. Some companies occupy quite a bit of space, and some even take up 2 floors. So, it's reasonable for them to come over and show goodwill. As for suppliers of hotel linens and food items, their arrival was unexpected. However, upon reflection, even though Chin-mo doesn't pay much attention to the hotel and office building, they are still his partners. This made Chin-mo realize that he was actually doing legitimate business. Once he came to this realization, Chin-mo couldn't help but chuckle. Although the number of visitors was unexpected, it was a good thing for him. They say doing business outside doesn't have anything concrete, but now, these can be considered genuine business dealings. At that moment, facing Qin Tianrui, Chin-mo smiled and said, "Didn't I tell you last time that my office building is quite large? Some of these tenants have rented an entire floor. I never mentioned the banquet for my grandmother's birthday to the public, probably because they were afraid I would raise the rent. They must have heard from the management that I have a hotel in that city, which is also sizable, with several partners. Most of them probably got the news from the hotel manager." As Chin-mo casually mentioned the gifts they brought, Qin Tianrui couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. He jokingly teased Zhao Shifu. "Look at my brother, isn't he impressive?" It was meant as a jest. Chin-mo chuckled at this. But little did he know that Zhao Shifu also enjoyed joking around. After sizing up Chin-mo a few times in response to Qin Tianrui's words, he said, "Where's the impressive part? He has none." Upon hearing this, Qin Tianrui was taken aback. Chin-mo's expression darkened immediately. He retorted, "Your salary is deducted by 200. You're done for." Haha. Zhao Shifu didn't mind losing 200 at all. Instead, he laughed even more joyfully. At this moment, Qin Tianrui also burst into laughter. As they were all laughing, a few people in chef uniforms walked in. Upon seeing Chin-mo, they quickly asked, "Boss, is there anything we can help with? Just let us know." The hotel Chin-mo owned was not small. And these people were chefs from the hotel who came with the manager. They weren't the only ones. Even some of the hotel staff had come. Before arriving, the hotel manager had thought that they would be busy during the banquet, so he brought a few more people to help. They gave some gifts, and even wore chef uniforms. It looked like if Chin-mo gave a command, most likely he wouldn't have to do anything himself. But upon hearing this, Chin-mo hurriedly said, "No need, no need. Just take off your clothes and wait for the feast. You all came here to enjoy the meal, you are guests. How can I let you help?" Chin-mo waved his hand. In fact, there was nothing wrong with lending a hand. However, he wanted to handle the banquet himself. The reason for this was not only because no one could match his culinary skills, but also because it was the birthday banquet of the second madam. And Chin-mo wanted to put in his best effort. Moreover, he was also thinking about whether he could receive a reward from the system after this birthday feast. He had been busy for such a long time. It couldn't be for nothing, right? Most importantly, the people in the hotel were strictly speaking his employees. Yet, looking at them, Chin-mo always felt a strange sense of detachment. It wasn't just the chefs. Even those in the surrounding area gave him the same feeling. It always made Chin-mo feel as if they were not his employees. On the contrary, he didn't feel that way about people like Lu Jiaming. This was quite puzzling. This was also why Chin-mo had previously decided to establish a new company and then provide social security for Lu Jiaming and others. Otherwise, the hotel was under his name and had a management company. He could have just affiliated it directly under them. Chin-mo hadn't thought this through before, so he didn't understand. But now he roughly knew why. Whether it was Lu Jiaming or others, he had hired them with his own money, and he had handled everything bit by bit. Therefore, he wouldn't feel any strange sensations. But the hotel and office building were directly rewards from the system. Everything was processed directly by the system, then classified under Chin-mo's name. This included those employees who were also bundled together. Thus, Chin-mo always regarded the hotel and office building as separate rewards, including the employees as part of them. Hence, having these people in front of him felt somewhat unreal. There was a sense of distance and unfamiliarity. However, this thought quickly made Chin-mo smile. Both the office building and the hotel truly existed. They weren't conjured by the system out of thin air. They simply transferred to Chin-mo's name through procedural means, just like placing an order for cargo ships. These employees had also come over directly with the transfer of the hotel or office building. They didn't just appear out of nowhere. Why did I have such a feeling? Chin-mo figured out the reason. It was still due to a lack of interaction. Chapter 109. This person is not suitable, greedy. It was still due to a lack of interaction. If he had been in contact more, he wouldn't have felt this way. Nonetheless, even though he was clear about this, Chin-mo didn't intend to pay too much attention to either the hotel or the office building. The foundations of these two places are still quite decent. They can operate independently, and that's already enough. Letting Chin-mo worry about these matters is just a joke. With that time, it would be better to think about how to give back to the elders of Qin family village. Can the rewards from the system compare to those from office buildings and hotels? Chin Mo declined the goodwill of several chefs. However, the chefs were persistent. For them, although they came to congratulate the birthday banquet, it was amusing. After all, they were employees. Did they really see themselves as guests? Moreover, it was quite busy at the front. They quickly continued, "Boss, we can help out." Yes, we've already put on our uniforms. It wouldn't look right to change now. Just let us lend a hand. It's not easy for us to be here. Seeing this scene, Qin Tianrui couldn't help but sigh. This boss is truly different. He then casually said to Qin Mo, "Just let them help. Don't delay the banquet." Hearing this, Qin Mo smiled and nodded, saying, "All right, then you all come and help. Help me handle this." After giving some instructions, Qin Mo added with a smile, "I'll talk to Zhou later and give you all a bonus. You shouldn't work for nothing." Upon hearing this, the few people were immediately delighted. They only knew that the boss never came to the hotel and had heard about his generosity in Qin family village. However, they had never actually seen the boss and didn't know how good he really was. They didn't expect that just for helping out, the boss would even offer a bonus. How could they not be happy? At least the red envelope they brought wasn't in vain. In fact, Qin Mo did exactly that. He found Zhou when he had time and instructed that everyone who came today would receive a bonus equivalent to 1 month's salary, along with the money they contributed as gifts. This included those from the office building as well. Qin Mo wasn't short on money. When people come, it means they have good intentions. He wouldn't let them come and work hard just to lose money on the gifts. It must be said that with these chefs from the hotel joining in, the preparations for the banquet became increasingly simple. By the time it was almost time, Qin Mo had even relaxed. Originally, they were supposed to start the banquet directly. That's how rural banquets work. When enough people have arrived and the time is right, they start serving food, which doesn't waste time. Guests come to eat and can leave after eating. However, this time, things were a bit different in Qin family village. Qin Tianrui and Qin Mo discussed and prepared some additional processes. Before the banquet officially began, the second grandmother, dressed in red and looking festive, sat at the main seat in the hall. Outside, Qin Fubo was the first to enter. He immediately knelt in front of the second grandmother and congratulated her, saying, "May you live as long as the South Mountain, and may your fortune flow like the East Sea." After saying this, he kowtowed several times. Once he finished, it was the turn of Qin Jianjun and others. Finally, it was Qin Tianrui's turn, while Qin Mo was second to last. Qin Yangyang was the last. The birthday banquet included a segment for paying respects, which didn't take long and proceeded quickly, not delaying the guest's meal at all. When Qin Fubo knelt and bowed, the second grandmother was still smiling broadly. By the time Qin Tianrui and Qin Mo also knelt down, and even Qin Yangyang followed suit, the second grandmother had tears in her eyes. Good, she exclaimed, but the tears in her eyes kept welling up. It wasn't easy. The second grandmother was overjoyed, not expecting that there would be younger generations to pay their respects on her birthday. Although there weren't many people, just 2 more than before, those 2 were still better than what the village had seen previously. As the birthday star, the second grandmother wiped her tears, while the other elderly folks from the village weren't in much better shape. Qin Tianrui chuckled loudly, saying, "Why cry? It's a great day. I'm back. What is there to cry about? I remember there are still people outside. Who knows when someone else will return to our village? Smile, everyone, let us all smile." Qin Tianrui spoke carelessly, but his eyes were also reddening. Paying respects was about gratitude for nurturing, and that was absolutely true. Since childhood, Qin Mo had often enjoyed the second grandmother's cooking. After all, he grew up on the kindness of many families. Which household hadn't he eaten from? Now it was the second grandmother's turn to enjoy a meal prepared by Qin Mo. The emotions in the village came and went quickly. In the blink of an eye, Qin Mo stood at the entrance and shouted, "Let us start the feast." With a bang, firecrackers went off continuously, accompanied by the booming sounds of fireworks. The opera stage became lively with singing. As soon as Qin Mo shouted to start the feast, everyone rushed to the kitchen. With the feast beginning, dishes needed to be served one by one, including some hot dishes. The security personnel from the village and the waitstaff from the hotel. Upon hearing the call to start the feast, each picked up trays of dishes and began to hustle. As the birthday banquet was being served, just a moment ago, people were lamenting how tough things had been for the village, but fortunately, there were some who had made something of themselves. It was mainly due to the lack of young people. In the past, there had been hope. The next moment, as chopsticks picked up food and brought it to their mouths, their eyes widened in surprise. "Wow, quick, try this flavor. Oh my, it's so fragrant and delicious." They exclaimed that these dishes were personally made by Qin. "My goodness, I've never had such delicious food, even in big hotels." In an instant, the table was cleared with astonishing speed. The office tenants and hotel suppliers who came didn't initially think about the birthday banquet. They weren't there just for the meal. They came primarily to build relationships. Just having a couple of bites was enough. But that was their previous thought. Now, with the chopsticks in hand, Mr. Chin's skills are truly remarkable. The taste is incredible. Hey, 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 save me a piece, just one piece. And then, originally, the table was filled with business people, all bosses and entrepreneurs. Everyone was happily chatting, thinking about possible cooperation opportunities. But now, all that is left in their eyes is the food. The manager from the distant trade company initially saw that Shanfeng Trading was also in the trade business and wanted to get to know the boss across the table. They started off chatting quite happily. However, when Mr. Liu from Shanfeng Trading quickly grabbed the last piece of meat, he couldn't help but feel disgusted. This person has already eaten several pieces and hasn't he even finished what's in his mouth, yet he takes the last piece. How greedy. I can't do business with him. Chapter 110. This generation of bosses is really hard to deal with. With the last piece of meat taken away, the distant trade manager grumbled in dissatisfaction. Consequently, he decided not to pursue any business cooperation with Mr. Liu from Shanfeng Trading. There was simply no follow-up. Mr. Liu from Shanfeng Trading was completely unaware of this. Once the piece of meat was in his mouth, he only had one simple thought in his mind. This is delicious. Mr. Chin's cooking skills are truly wasted if he is not a chef. Speaking of Mr. Chin's skills, it really is a pity he isn't a chef. At least everyone present had never tasted such delicious dishes. It's hard to say how captivating these dishes are, but every single one made people unable to resist picking up their chopsticks. They couldn't help but feel that the taste was extraordinary. Regardless of the purpose of their visit, at that moment, everyone felt it was worth it. Others aside, just seeing so many people enjoying their meal made Qin Fugui happy. He had spent many years in the countryside and was well aware of the importance of this moment. He could even imagine that many years later, as long as there were still people alive who attended this birthday banquet, they would surely reminisce about it. It was the banquet from Qin Family Village. I tell you, thinking of how others would talk about this in the future made Qin Fugui extremely happy. So happy that he could hardly contain his joy. The guests were enjoying their meal, and Qin Mo didn't forget his responsibilities. As the dishes and drinks were almost all served, he and Qin Tianrui, one holding a bottle and the other holding a cup, began to toast everyone. For those that Qin Tianrui knew from the nearby villages, he would go over to toast them. For those who knew Qin Mo or came specifically for him, Qin Mo would take the lead. The two brothers complimented each other well. Uncle Liu, enjoy your meal and drink well. This is our Uncle Liu from Xiaolu Village. Oh great. The guests from the nearby villages were eager to accept the toasts from Qin Tianrui. Mr. Wang, thank you so much for coming to support us. I truly appreciate it. Hope you enjoy your meal and drinks. If I haven't been a good host, please don't mind. Oh, Mr. Qin. Why would you say that? We are like brothers. The brotherly bond is non-existent. After all, this is the first time Mr. Wang and Qin Mo are meeting, despite having had some prior interactions. In response to this, Qin Mo can only smile. Soon, Qin Mo made his way to the table where Zhou Ying and others were seated. This table consisted of hotel staff. Upon seeing the boss, everyone quickly stood up. Facing this situation, Qin Mo hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Please, sit down. Don't be so formal. Why are you all standing?" After all, Qin Mo is their boss. And both Zhou Ying and the others felt a bit reserved. Fortunately, Qin Mo was warm and welcoming. With his repeated invitations, the hotel staff relaxed a little. In the meantime, Qin Mo exchanged a few pleasantries. Of course, he also did not forget to remind Zhou Ying about the bonuses. Once Qin Mo settled these matters, the hotel staff couldn't help but smile, thinking to themselves, the boss is really nice. He hardly comes to the hotel, but the food he makes is so delicious. Wow, having a new boss is great, way better than the previous one. It's so comfortable working under such a boss. Speaking of Qin Mo's cooking skills, Zhou Ying, being business-minded, cautiously suggested, "Boss, why don't you come to the hotel more often? Your cooking is so good. Why not come and cook a few dishes for us regularly? With your skills, I believe our hotel will be booming in no time." Zhou Ying had clearly set his sights on Qin Mo's culinary talent, eagerly trying to persuade him. This left Qin Mo both amused and helpless. He knew he was good at cooking, but he simply didn't have the time to go to the hotel. Besides, the hotel was not his primary business. To Qin Mo, it was okay to keep it running even if it incurred losses. He could afford it. Even if it closed down, so what? Spending too much time on it was a complete waste. However, Qin Mo couldn't say this outright and could only respond to Zhou Ying, "I have other businesses to attend to. I need to focus on other things." Zhou Ying was not just a manager. It was clear he had some ambition. He wanted to do well in his job and improve the hotel. Hearing Qin Mo's response, he suggested, "How about we arrange for you to come once a week? You can cook once each time, and I'll promote it to boost our hotel's reputation." It seemed that the staff was trying to lure Qin Mo into becoming a chef, but Zhou Ying had to settle for this compromise. Qin Mo chuckled, "Even once a week is tough for me. I have too many businesses to handle." He didn't express his indifference toward the hotel directly, as that might dampen the staff's enthusiasm. Listening to Qin Mo, Zhou Ying couldn't help but sigh internally. This boss is really hard to work with. But looking at the food on the table and thinking about the boss's cooking skills, he knew that while the boss might not care much about the hotel, he, as the manager, certainly did. So he continued, "How about this, boss? I'll leave a few of our hotel chefs here to learn from you." Qin Imo quickly suggested, noticing Zhou Ying's eager gaze. "That sounds good." As soon as Qin Imo stepped away, Zhou Ying looked over at several chefs at the dining table. The moment the chefs caught his eye, they immediately exclaimed, "I'll stay and learn from the boss. I want to learn too, once I master it. I definitely want to leave. Boss, my skills are already great. To be honest, I also want to stay. I can do it too." They were no fools. They had already benefited greatly from watching Qin Imo cook. With the boss's skills, learning them would be an asset for themselves. Improving their skills meant they could do better in the future. Their enthusiasm was undeniable. They even thought that the boss's culinary skills ranked among the best in the country. After all, they hadn't seen such a talented chef in years. Learning from him was a rare opportunity. In other places, you'd have to bow down just to get a glance. Not to mention chefs, even a few waitstaff were itching to get involved. Some of the girls were even considering picking up a big ladle. Zhou Ying, being astute, interjected, "Wait. Although the boss hasn't said anything. That's because he's busy with business and doesn't have time for these small matters. But as the manager, I have to be responsible for the hotel. First of all, if you want to stay and learn from the boss, you must commit to at least 10 years and can't leave. Even if you really want to go, you'll have to sign a non-compete agreement. Also, if you learn any of the boss's skills, I'll talk to the boss about giving you a raise. The treatment will definitely match your skills. It can't be low." Just as Zhou Ying said, he felt that Qin Imo might not mind. But this serious face was something Zhou Ying felt he had to maintain. "You all agree, right? Don't think you can learn and then just leave. If you run away after learning, then the boss has wasted his time training you." Zhou Ying paused, then added, "And this is just a temporary statement. I need to confirm with the boss, and if he has any other requirements, that needs to be considered as well. If there was agreement, great. If not, that is fine too." Zhou Ying was fully responsible for the hotel and had the authority to handle this matter. The group exchanged glances, and no one voiced any objections. They felt it was only natural. Learning should come with some commitment. Besides, with a promise of a raise. Their acquired skills deserve to be rewarded. What was there to disagree on? "I agree. I also agree. That is only fair. Manager, go ask the boss. If I learn it, I'll work at our hotel until I die." Zhou Ying genuinely ran over to ask Qin Imo. Qin Imo couldn't help but smile. Seeing his serious expression, he considered and replied, "All right, let us do it your way. When the time comes, whatever the treatment or conditions, let us put it in writing. That way, everyone can feel reassured, right?" "Great." Zhou Ying happily agreed and left, leaving Qin Imo both amused and bemused. In the end, some employees even came here for further training. Besides the hotel chefs, there was also Master Zhao eagerly waiting to learn from Qin Imo. This left Qin Imo at a loss for words. He still remembered that he initially just wanted to hire a chef. In the end, he did manage to hire one. But unexpectedly, he became a master himself. However, Qin Imo had already planned to teach whenever he had the time. The hotel chefs could come over when free, which would also help Master Zhao with some tasks and provide meals for Qin Family Village. Especially once the activity center was built, they could stay in the dorms. But to expect Qin Imo to teach continuously and seriously, that was probably not feasible. He simply didn't have that much time. Meanwhile, over at the office building, the hotel staff were bustling about. Someone from the management office asked, "Mr. Zhao, should we send a couple of people over to learn from the boss?" Zhao Yulong shot him a glance. "Manager Zhou, we're in business for the boss. It's a hotel. What do we need to learn for? We're just collecting rent. We're cooking staff meals." Zhao Yulong didn't dare to say this to Qin Imo, fearing a backlash. Fortunately, the management office staff realized how unreasonable their suggestion was, and soon enough, everyone fell silent. They looked at the dwindling dishes on the table, thinking they might not get to enjoy such delicious food again. They certainly couldn't let the boss cook for them. Suddenly, someone asked, "Mr. Zhao, did you bring a plastic bag?" "Why? I want to pack some leftovers. You all are full, right?" The others became anxious. "Nonsense. I'm still hungry." "Exactly. You want to pack? Why don't you just fly to the moon? I'll take a sip of that soup." It was quite pitiful. All respectable people suddenly thinking about packing food at a banquet. Fortunately, Zhao Yulong was sharp and his eyes lit up. "Wait for me." He stood up and headed straight for Qin Imo. Before long, he returned with a beaming smile. Seeing him like this, the management office staff asked, "Mr. Zhao, what did you say to the boss? What good news has you so happy? Did the boss give you a raise?" Zhao Yulong happily replied, "Believe it or not, he really did give a raise." This was true. Zhao Yulong had come to find Qin Imo, and Qin Imo, thinking about the hotel staff salary increase, inadvertently mentioned the same treatment for the office building staff. They were all his employees, and he couldn't charge them fees. Their presence was already a gesture of goodwill. But for Zhao Yulong, a salary increase wasn't the best news. Isn't a salary increase something to be happy about? What else could be more joyous? Zhao Yulong laughed heartily. Our office building management's expenses on staff meals are quite substantial. I told the boss, since the hotel is also his property, why not let the hotel provide meals for us? After all, it's all his own business, and there are no other shareholders. The boss agreed. Wait, is a staff meal really worth being this happy about? The accountant from the management office didn't he react immediately to his words. As soon as he finished speaking, someone beside him exclaimed, "Are you foolish? The chef at the hotel is learning skills from the boss. Once the skills are mastered, how can the cooking be poor? Shouldn't the staff meals be prepared by them as well?" Although the meals prepared by the hotel chefs may not match the boss's skills. Wow, this is a clever workaround. Oh my goodness. Great, this is simply wonderful. It's no wonder that the people from the management office are really sharp. They are all grinning widely. Moreover, the hotel is not far from the office building. Zhao Yulong glanced at the food on the table over at Zhou Ying's side and noticed there was still plenty left. He quickly said, "I'll go talk to General Manager Zhou." After saying that, he got up and walked towards Zhou Ying. Before long, Zhao Yulong greeted, "Hello, General Manager Zhou, I am Zhao Yulong. I'm the head of the management office for the boss's office building. Although we are not in the same place, we are colleagues. It's a pleasure to meet you." Zhou Ying quickly stood up. Hello, General Manager Zhao." Zhao Yulong smiled and said, "The thing is, the boss mentioned that we are all family, so from now on, the staff meals for the management office will be handled by your hotel. Sorry for the trouble." Zhou Ying replied, "Oh, it's all for the boss's work. There is no trouble at all." Zhao Yulong was chatting away and took the opportunity to sit down. The people from the management office watched him with admiration from a distance. Wow, it's really General Manager Zhao. What is there to say? Isn't it just a heads up? What heads up? Look at how much food is on their table. General Manager Zhao even took his own chopsticks over. A group of people noticed that Zhao Yulong was already picking up food from the hotel table. They all exclaimed, "Wow, General Manager Zhao is really thick-skinned." Well, this heads up was indeed real, and it was also because there was plenty of food on the hotel table. They casually switched tables to enjoy a meal. They are all quite clever. Meanwhile, Qin Mo was unaware of how enthusiastically his employees were chatting. At this moment, most of the food on the tables was nearly finished. To be honest, this group of guests could really eat. If it weren't for the food prepared by themselves, and knowing how many dishes were served, Qin Mo would doubt whether he had prepared enough. However, seeing the guests reluctantly getting up and looking back at the table, some even leaning on it, it was clear that there was indeed a lot of food. They were just really good at eating. It also showed that Qin Mo's cooking skills were truly exceptional. This made Qin Mo feel a bit worried. He hoped they wouldn't overeat. Just as Qin Mo was thinking this, suddenly, a notification sounded in his mind. Ding. Chapter 112. Need to recruit a pilot. Ding. The host gives back to the villagers, celebrating Zhu Yui's birthday, and receives the reward, Wangfa Supermarket. A system prompt echoed in Qin Mo's mind. At the moment he heard the system notification, Qin Mo was filled with unexpected joy. After all this time spent working hard, apart from sincerely celebrating his second grandmother's birthday and making it lively, what he really sought was the system's reward. Sure enough, the system did not disappoint him at all. And this reward, Wangfa Supermarket? This supermarket is known to Qin Mo, a local chain brand in Danyang City. Although it is a local brand, it has expanded widely across Danyang City, even reaching into the towns. When people in Danyang City want to shop at a supermarket, most of them choose Wangfa Supermarket. This supermarket has won unanimous praise for its renowned meticulous service. The corners of Qin Mo's mouth couldn't help but lift. This reward is simply too good to be true. Besides being great, it's a coincidence. He had previously mentioned that once the activity center was completed, he would open a supermarket in the village. He didn't expect a chain supermarket to come directly. This really saves trouble. Soon, he could just open the supermarket in the village. And he wouldn't even have to worry about sourcing products. Just as Qin Mo was feeling pleased, the system had further updates. Another notification popped up, indicating that this reward would take about half a month to fully reach Qin Mo. During this period, he needed to wait. If it weren't for the earlier experience with the cargo ship, Qin Mo might have been puzzled. However, having learned from that, he understood that the half-month time frame likely meant the system would be acquiring this chain supermarket in some way. And only after that period would the rewards be in his hands. There wasn't much to say about it. Qin Mo was already very happy to receive the system's rewards. Just as he was reveling in that joy, unexpectedly, before he could enjoy it for 5 seconds, the system notification chimed again. This sound left Qin Mo somewhat dazed. There's more? He thought instinctively. Besides preparing the birthday banquet, he hadn't done anything else. The opera troupe provided rewards daily, but those were given only after the performances ended in the evening. Now, unexpectedly, the system didn't make Qin Mo ponder for too long. Ding. The host has prepared a birthday banquet for Zhu Yui and received a system reward, an S-300 CBI, single-engine helicopter. Hearing the system notification, Chin Mo was stunned. Wow, they really did give a reward. Chin Mo was deeply moved. He initially thought the birthday banquet would yield just one reward. Unexpectedly, the fact that he personally prepared the banquet also counted as a separate reward. Cooking for the banquet and hosting it meant he received 2 rewards. Even more astonishingly, this time the reward was actually a helicopter? Wow. The system's rewards truly encompass all modes of transportation, land, sea, and air, and now he had them all. Although Chin Mo didn't show much on the surface, receiving so many benefits made his heart blossom with joy. Of course, the helicopter reward would also take some time. Arriving in about a week, Chin Mo didn't care much about how long the reward would take. While he was happy, he was also somewhat troubled. Although he now had a helicopter, but this thing, he can't fly it. The system hasn't rewarded him with the skills to operate an aircraft. What does this mean? Do I have to hire a pilot? Chin Mo was pondering this when someone approached him. It was President Ho, who also rented office space in Chin Mo's building. President Ho's company was of moderate size. As the banquet was winding down, he came over to get closer to Chin Mo, listening to him. Chin Mo casually replied, "Oh, it's nothing. I just bought a helicopter. The order has been placed, and I was thinking that in a few days, they should deliver the helicopter to me. But I just remembered, even though I bought a helicopter, I can't fly it. I was just considering whether I should hire a pilot." When Chin Mo said this, President Ho was taken aback. Well, he originally came to get closer to Chin Mo, but after hearing this, he didn't know how to respond. For President Ho, buying a helicopter wasn't a big deal. A small, inexpensive helicopter isn't worth much, just the price of a car. But the problem is, to buy one without being able to fly it, and to realize this only when it's almost delivered. How casual can one be? How indifferent must one be? How could President Ho continue the conversation after that? Fortunately, President Ho reacted quickly and awkwardly laughed. "Well, just hire a pilot then." "How much did you spend on this helicopter, President Chin?" "Not a dime. It's all system rewards," Chin Mo replied. "Of course, on the surface," he added, "a single-engine helicopter isn't worth much. Probably a few million." President Ho truly didn't know how to respond now. With the helicopter in hand, hiring a pilot was essential. Otherwise, it would be a waste. The birthday banquet was almost over, and Chin Mo didn't have time to think about this. In the blink of an eye, he went to greet the guests. Chin Tianrui welcomed those from nearby villages. There were guests who wanted to enjoy a performance. The tables, chairs, and fruits were all arranged. As for the visitors from Danyang, Chin Mo personally went to see them off. After all, they came to show their respect. It wouldn't be appropriate for the host not to send them off. Just seeing them off took Chin Mo quite a bit of time. When most of the guests had left, he finally got a moment to rest. Just as Chin Mo was about to take a break, Zhou Ying and a few others arrived. They had also been quite busy helping out while sending off the guests. "Boss, we're heading back now." "Okay. Thank you for your hard work." "It's no trouble at all." Zhou Ying and Zhao Yulong quickly smiled in response. Just as they were about to leave, Chin Mo remembered and hurriedly said, "Oh right, after you two return to Danyang, see if anyone has time to help me find a pilot. I bought a helicopter, but I can't fly it myself. It's relatively easy to hire security or cleaning staff in the countryside. However, wanting to recruit pilots is basically impossible." Chin Mo was too lazy to make another trip to Danyang, so he simply asked the two of them to help inquire. After Chin Mo finished speaking, the two exchanged glances and nodded eagerly. "No problem, boss. Just leave it to us." "Yes, don't worry, we will definitely get it done." "Boss, what kind of treatment are we looking at, and how soon do you need it?" "The sooner, the better." Chapter 113. This project has a strong engineering flavor. The two kept assuring Chin Mo. Seeing their serious expressions, Chin Mo couldn't help but laugh and cry. He just wanted them to ask when they had time. It seemed like it had turned into a task. He quickly said, "No need for that. Just ask for me. It's fine if you can't find anyone. As for the treatment, just a little more than the normal rate would be fine since it's in the village." He was worried about the plane being wasted sitting there. He also thought that having a plane would allow him to have some fun. In reality, aside from that, what would he do with a helicopter in the countryside? It wouldn't be very useful. However, Chin Mo had some ideas. He thought he could use the helicopter for fun and remembered that planes could also be used for spraying pesticides. If necessary, he could modify the plane for that purpose. After the wheat harvest next year, Chin Mo planned to take over all the land in Chin family village, so the elders wouldn't have to work anymore. Whether to plant directly or make other arrangements was fine. If they continued farming, the helicopter would be perfect for pesticide spraying, which would save a lot of trouble. It would be a win-win situation. Fortunately, others were unaware of Chin Mo's thoughts. If they knew, they would be dumbfounded. The aircraft used for spraying pesticides was entirely different from the aircraft rewarded by the system. How much would a pesticide spraying plane cost? Only someone like Chin Mo would be willing to spend on that. Although Chin Mo repeatedly stated that it was just an inquiry, and it was okay if they couldn't find anyone. It was clear that the two took his request as a task. They even whispered to each other about needing to find a pilot for the boss as soon as possible, glancing at each other, hinting at a sense of urgency. Putting that aside, the birthday banquet had completely come to an end. Qin family village had become relatively quiet again. Of course, this was only relative. The village didn't return to its previous state immediately. At least the opera troupe was still there, continuing to engage the enthusiasm of the villagers from 10 miles around. Moreover, just the presence of the troupe was enough to liven up the small Qin family village. Not to mention, there were so many people coming to watch the performance. However, with a large number of performers and audience members, while others might not have noticed or cared, Qin Mo quickly discovered a problem. There were not enough restrooms. Originally, after Qin Mo had installed bathrooms throughout the village, the open pit toilets had become obsolete. But with so many people coming to watch the performances, after a while, everyone needed to use the restroom, and they all rushed in one by one. If someone happened to have an upset stomach, you could occasionally hear coughing sounds coming from the pit toilet, signaling to those outside that there was someone inside. In fact, it could be said that during the performances by the theater troupe, the restroom was never idle. Not only the pit toilet, but even the restrooms in the homes of the elderly were often borrowed. This suddenly energized Qin Mo, who was initially unsure of what to do. Wasn't this like a reward from the system? He turned around and was eager to get things organized. Just as Qin Mo had this thought, Qin Tianrui approached him and handed him a pancake with a smile, saying, "It's hot. Hurry and eat." Qin Mo loved pancakes, especially the ones baked in a stove. When he was around 10 years old, he often asked Qin Tianrui to buy them for him, and he bought quite a few. He was surprised that Qin Tianrui still remembered. Of course, that wasn't the main point. Seeing the pancake, Qin Mo asked in surprise, "Did you go to the town?" He hadn't seen when Qin Tianrui had gone, as he had been busy in Qin family village. Did Qin Tianrui have the ability to fly? Hearing this, Qin Tianrui laughed and pointed towards the stage, saying, "I didn't go. Why would I go to the town? A vendor came here selling pancakes, so I bought a few." Qin Mo looked over and indeed saw a pancake stall. Not only that, but there was also a stall selling seeds and snacks. Goodness. He never expected outsiders would come to set up stalls in Qin family village. Moreover, he instantly thought of how the elderly in the village lacked excitement. Now that there were vendors, Qin family village was becoming more lively. If more vendors came in the future, even if people from other places didn't come to watch the performances, they might still come here. Wouldn't Qin family village then turn into a small market town? It would be even more bustling. That scene would be truly beautiful. Perhaps for city dwellers, a vendor was nothing significant, but for Qin Mo, who grew up in the countryside, he often envied those living in towns. He felt that they could easily buy food and clothes, and their neighborhoods were lively. Unlike the countryside, which fell silent at night, he wished he could live in a town. Now, if Qin family village could retain people and develop, it could really become a small market town, fulfilling Qin Mo's childhood dream. This made Qin Mo suddenly have another idea, to open a larger supermarket. With a supermarket here, people from 10 miles and 8 villages would come to shop. If there were other shops as well, even more people would come. Adding a clinic would make it even better. Qin Mo was excited. Doesn't it look more like a small town now? He suddenly thought. The houses in Qin family village need more than just demolition and rebuilding. It would be best to have another street. Just having a community center is not enough. It would be better if the clinic were a bit larger. It would be great to have a bunch of shops. At that time, let Qin Tianrui do business here. Losing money is not important. The key is to create a lively atmosphere. It would also be convenient for the people of Qin family village. That sounds good. Of course. Qin Mo hasn't forgotten one thing yet. With stalls set up, wouldn't it be much easier for everyone to use the restroom? In a flash, Qin Mo was walking forward while munching on a flatbread. He figured he needed to find the head of the construction company and have a chat. Fortunately, Song Qingfeng was still at the construction site of the activity center. He hadn't left yet. Seeing Qin Mo heading toward the site, Qin Tianrui asked, "Where are you going?" Qin Mo? Qin Mo casually replied, "I'm going to talk to President Song." "What about?" Qin Tianrui asked. "Building houses after the new year?" Qin Mo laughed. "It's still early for that." In a moment, Qin Mo found Song Qingfeng and directly expressed his intention to discuss a big project. Song Qingfeng immediately became excited. He left and was watching at the construction site. This was also a way to show his dedication to Qin Mo unexpectedly. "There was a big project?" "President Qin, tell me. There's nothing we can't handle. What are we building?" "What project?" The next moment, Qin Mo spoke up, "A public restroom. One with more stalls." Song Qingfeng. He didn't know how big the project was, but the idea was quite bold. Chapter 114, Let us just do it. He heard it was to build a restroom. Song Qingfeng was caught between laughter and tears. When he heard Qin Mo say this, he really thought it was some big project. He never expected it to be a restroom. This left him at a loss for words. All he could say was that he got overly excited for nothing. However, being a businessman, Song Qingfeng quickly regained his composure. In a flash, he said to Qin Mo, "President Qin, you really know how to joke." After shaking his head and laughing, Song Qingfeng seriously said, "Are you really going to build a public restroom in the village? I'm not joking. You saw it too. With so many people here, there isn't even a public restroom. This is not acceptable." After hearing this, Song Qingfeng nodded cheerfully. "This is simple. Then, leave this restroom to me, and I'll get it done in 3 days. Just tell me where to build it. And let's discuss the price first." Although it wasn't the big project he had anticipated, Song Qingfeng was a bit disappointed. But he waved his hand and smiled. "It's just a restroom. It's no trouble at all. President Qin, you've collaborated with me on such a big project. How could I care about this? You can just rest assured and leave it to me. I'll have it built in 3 days. And we'll finish the decoration in a week for it to be in use. You can count on that." Song Qingfeng patted his chest and made a promise to Qin Mo, showing a generous demeanor. Indeed, it was just a restroom. Such things are extremely simple for someone in construction. It's literally a matter of lifting a hand. As for the cost, Song Qingfeng even said he would waive it entirely. Consider it a gift. Listening to Song Qingfeng's words, Qin Mo smiled gratefully and said, "That's great. Then I'll thank you in advance, General Song. By the way, you don't think I'm joking about the big project, do you?" Seeing Song Qingfeng's expression, Qin Mo realized that he thought he was joking. However, in reality, Qin Mo was not joking at all. He then detailed his idea of developing a street to Song Qingfeng. After hearing Qin Mo's thoughts, Song Qingfeng was momentarily taken aback, then immediately filled with joy. "Building a street? That really is a big project." He quickly responded, "No problem at all. To be honest, as long as the funds are in place, Qin General, don't say just building a street. Even if you want to build a palace, I can manage it." Song Qingfeng truly had the capability. This was no joke. His construction company was quite substantial, and nowadays, as long as the money is available, there's practically nothing that can't be accomplished. There's a saying, the speed of construction depends on the speed of payments from the client. As long as you have the funds. What is so difficult about building a palace? However, after saying this, Song Qingfeng looked around suspiciously and asked, "Qin General, are you sure you want to build a street here? In the village? But there aren't many people coming to the village. What's the point of having a street?" Although business people can do whatever customers want as long as it's legal, and it's all about making money, he wouldn't question anyone else about it. He would just do it. But since it was Qin Mo, he decided to ask, as they were somewhat familiar with each other. Hearing this, Qin Mo smiled and explained, "I just find Qin Family Village too quiet. It looks fine now, but once your construction team leaves and the performers go away, it will be just as quiet as before. Older folks enjoy lively atmospheres, and you know the village hasn't had this kind of liveliness for years. It makes the elderly happier." With just a few words, Qin Mo expressed his thoughts. Hearing that Qin Mo wanted to build a street just to make Qin Family Village more lively, Song Qingfeng was stunned. How wealthy do you have to be to think like this? This is just money with nowhere to go. At the same time, he admired Qin Mo's generosity for the sake of the village's elderly. If it were someone else, they wouldn't spend this kind of money. Of course, Song Qingfeng couldn't help but add, "But just having a street, who will do business there? Without businesses, won't it still be empty?" Qin Mo smiled and replied, "But there will be a supermarket and a clinic. People from the surrounding villages will definitely come to buy things, and there will also be people visiting the clinic. Besides, if no one else wants to do business, I plan to run all the businesses on that street myself. Making money doesn't matter. It's all about the hustle and bustle. As long as there are businesses, who would worry about no one coming?" Song Qingfeng listened to Qin Mo's words for a while without saying a word. He was completely convinced. But to be fair, if they really did it this way, would there still be a worry about no one coming here? Alright. According to Qin Mo's reasoning, Song Qingfeng couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. Building this street would cost a lot of money, along with the necessary infrastructure. Spending so much just for such a simple request. Of course, Song Qingfeng thought that Qin Mo could afford it because he had a lot of money. What he didn't know was that Qin Mo chose to build the street because he knew that no matter how much money he spent, he wouldn't lose out. Even if he spent so much, once the system rewarded him, wouldn't he make a huge profit and soar from there? At the same time, it would also make Kinjiakan more lively. Once this matter was confirmed, Qin Mo quickly began to discuss with Song Qingfeng about the street's location and layout. It needed to be separate from Kinjiakan, just outside of it. Qin Mo planned to enclose Kinjiakan in a community format, meaning that right outside the door would be the street, but it couldn't affect traffic. The length could be around 500 meters. As for land, Kinjiakan had plenty. As long as it didn't occupy the basic farmland, there wouldn't be any problem. After roughly discussing with Song Qingfeng, he turned around and got busy. Following Qin Mo's requirements, he needed to measure data, design the layout, and also get the restroom project underway immediately. Song Qingfeng initially intended for the on-site construction team to build this public restroom. But seeing the increasing number of projects and the slow progress of the activity center, he became anxious. "Qin, wait for me to get another construction team over," he exclaimed. "I'll have the plan ready for you before the new year, and I'll have the main structure of the activity center completed before then." Chapter 115, Sustainable Development Goals. Song Qingfeng rushed back to Donyang City, looking very hurried, eager to get things done. His urgency made Qin Imo happy as well. After all, the sooner the project was completed, the sooner he could receive the system rewards. Of course, getting it done quickly before the new year was nearly impossible. Everything would have to wait until after the holiday. After Song Qingfeng left, Qin Tianrui came over to Qin Imo. "What have you been up to?" he asked. In response, Qin Imo briefly recounted his conversation with Song Qingfeng. After listening, Qin Tianrui appeared both excited and a bit conflicted. "Isn't it just because you have too much money to spend? Building a street? Will there even be customers for businesses? Isn't that just wasting money? Damn it. When I was a kid, I just wished to live in town so I could buy something to eat easily. It's no longer like before, where you had to walk a long distance just to buy a baked pancake." Clearly, Qin Tianrui, as a child raised in the countryside, shares the same thoughts as Qin Imo. If there were a street right at the doorstep, bustling with activity, it would definitely make him very happy. However, happiness aside, Qin Tianrui is quite concerned about the expenses. He keeps muttering, "How much is this going to cost? How much is this going to cost?" Seeing him mumbling like that, Qin Imo helplessly replied, "I have money. How much can it cost? Land doesn't cost anything. It's just construction fees. It won't cost much at all. At most, a few tens of millions. With a street of 500 meters, without the cost of land, it really wouldn't be that expensive. Anyway, a few tens of millions would definitely be more than enough. This isn't a city. If it were in the city, just the land costs alone would be overwhelming." But when this reached Qin Tianrui's ears, he was stunned. A few tens of millions? Qin Tianrui was completely taken aback. So to Qin Imo, a few tens of millions isn't even considered money? After staring wide-eyed for a moment, he finally said, "Wow, little brother, I thought you were impressive. But it turns out you're at this level? A few tens of millions can be treated so casually? You've once again refreshed my understanding of you. Enough of that. Brother, I'll entrust my next life to you, okay?" Qin Tianrui was worried about Qin Imo spending too much money, which is why he kept mumbling. But he was different from the old folks in Qin family village. After learning that a few tens of millions meant nothing to Qin Imo, he immediately relaxed. Hearing Qin Tianrui's carefree words, Qin Imo couldn't help but laugh. "What are you talking about? You're entrusting your latter half of life to me? I don't even know who I'll be entrusting my life to. Don't be like that. You have money, but I don't. Should I give you some?" "No way." In front of Qin Imo, Qin Tianrui was just chatting casually. As they talked, they suddenly started imagining what the street would look like once it was completed. Qin Tianrui, lost in thoughts, suddenly asked Qin Imo a question. "Little Imo, do you still have money?" Qin Imo paused and answered yes. "I have money, but not much. After accounting for building a house after the new year, plus the expenses for the street, I might not have enough. Basically, it's like having no money at all." However, Qin Imo wasn't worried. There were still system rewards. The system is quite generous. As long as there are rewards, other expenses don't count. Just the cash rewards alone would ensure he wouldn't be short on money. This was also the reason why Qin Imo was building the street without the previous worry about not having enough funds. Qin Imo didn't understand why Qin Tianrui asked that. He thought he was just being concerned. Soon after, Qin Tianrui asked again, "Is the money a lot?" "Quite a bit," Qin Imo answered straightforwardly after a pause. "Just say what you want." Qin Tianrui smiled and said, "I just thought, one street might not be lively enough. If you have extra money, why not build a mall? That would make things even livelier, right?" Qin Imo originally thought that Qin Tianrui was worried about him. But it turned out that wasn't the case at all. After learning that Qin Imo had plenty of money, it seemed like just improving the streets wasn't enough for Qin Tianrui after half a year. "Build a mall?" Qin Imo hadn't said a word. But Qin Tianrui continued with a chuckle. "Look, if you build a mall, it'll be even more bustling. If we add a couple more streets, our place will be just like a town. If you build a few more streets and add some other things, we might even catch up to a county seat. If I build a couple of houses in the village by then, wouldn't it be just like the city? Wouldn't the land prices go up? Wouldn't the housing prices rise too? Then I could be a landlord, right?" He got carried away with his imagination. I have to say, Qin Tianrui's ideas were quite good, but Qin Imo replied in a rather annoyed tone. "Go play. Go find Yang Yang, and you two can play in the mud." Qin Imo turned and walked away, unable to listen to any more of Qin Tianrui's lofty ideas. He was overestimating him and just rambling on. As Qin Imo walked away, Qin Tianrui called after him. "Hey, don't go. Let us discuss this further. Little Imo, help me fulfill my dream of being a landlord." Hearing Qin Tianrui's words, Qin Imo didn't even look back. I have to admit, Qin Tianrui was quite absurd. However, his words did make Qin Imo think of some villages in the south. There are some developed cities in the south that started as small villages. In fact, there are even villages that initially were just ordinary but eventually grew into towns or even county-level cities, becoming valuable places. The names of those villages are well known. Hardly anyone in the eastern region doesn't know them. Although Qin Tianrui's thoughts were ridiculous, it must be said that there are indeed precedents for such developments. If viewed from this perspective, it's not entirely impossible. Even if achieving this seems like a pipe dream, I still have to contribute to Kanjiakan. Even if I can't reach that point, I can still strive in that direction. I was at a loss for what to do. And now it feels like I found a direction. Regardless of what I do, the system will still reward me. If this continues, it's feasible, very feasible. This could even be seen as a sustainable development project from the system. This thought made Qin Imo inexplicably happy. He felt like he had completely found his goal. And his heart settled down. Without mentioning Qin Imo finding his goal, the next day, Kanjiakan was still lively. There was even a theater troupe here, making it a bit more bustling than before. There were also several more street vendors. At the same time, Song Qingfeng returned again with another construction team. The public restroom project in Kanjiakan had started. Chapter 116. Should we find some work? Once the construction team arrived, they quickly got to work. The speed was very fast. In less than half an hour, the site was cleared. Of course, it was mainly because it was just a public restroom. It really doesn't take much effort. It's worth mentioning that while the construction team was clearing the site, the singing and festivities continued nearby. The elderly residents of Qin Family Village, who were initially focused on the performance, couldn't help but gather around to see what was happening. They had watched enough performances to not mind missing a few minutes. Soon, there was a commotion in Qin Family Village. The elderly couldn't help but feel curious. Even before they approached, they began discussing among themselves. What is going on? Why is another construction team here? Not sure. What is Xiao Mo planning to build this time? Who knows? The elderly residents voiced their thoughts, mixing curiosity with a hint of caution, clearly concerned about what was being planned. Before long, the elderly gathered closer. Qin Mo was there, as well as Song Qingfeng, and even Qin Tianrui was present. Seeing so many people, the elderly didn't ask questions but observed quietly, eavesdropping on the conversation among Qin Mo and the others. When they learned it was just a public restroom, they felt relieved. In an instant, Qin Huai waved his hand to the other elderly and said, "Come on. It's just a restroom. Nothing to see." "A restroom? A toilet?" "Yes, a public one. Why build this? Don't we all have toilets at home?" Third grandpa looked around and said, "With the village so lively now, maybe the toilets aren't enough." "Oh, don't worry about it. It's just a toilet. Let them build it." In the past, would Qin Family Village have needed something like a public restroom? The elderly would have said something. But now, with many lessons learned from previous experiences, they had decided to keep quiet. In their eyes, it was just a toilet. How much could it cost? It's not like they were tearing down and rebuilding the village. If they all chimed in, wouldn't that be annoying? Wouldn't it be bothersome? If they kept saying what shouldn't be done, what if Qin Mo had nowhere to spend his money? What if he turned to bad habits? Moreover, Qin Mo was so capable, he wouldn't be bothered by such a small matter. The elderly residents of Qin Family Village now just wanted to ensure that whatever was being done was not too outrageous. In any case, they wouldn't interfere. They could see that the village was becoming lively. Although they didn't express it, the elderly were pleased in their hearts. After all these years, when had Qin Family Village ever seen such liveliness? Now, they could step out and see people around. In the past, there were only a few people in the village, all elderly, and to put it bluntly, some like second grandma were just waiting to pass on, their minds heavy with silence. After countless days and nights, things were better now. With the village buzzing with activity, their hearts felt a bit lighter. Just as the elderly were about to leave, Qin Tianrui lightly nudged Qin Mo's arm, signaling him to look back at the departing figures. In reality, the elderly folks had approached earlier, and Qin Mo had noticed them. Unexpectedly, they left without saying a word. Qin Mo turned to Qin Tianrui, who smiled and said, didn't he even ask, just let it go." Hearing this, Qin Mo grinned as well. It was clear that the elderly in Qin Family Village had become much more accepting now. In the past, when it came to public restrooms, they would have had to discuss it multiple times. Speaking of which, building just one restroom was indeed quick. After 2 or 3 days, the restroom was completely finished. One reason for the speed was that it was constructed using prefabricated modules. This suggestion came from Song Qingfeng. Unlike the usual method of laying bricks bit by bit and waiting for the concrete to dry, as Song Qingfeng put it, it's just a restroom. It doesn't need to be as complicated as building a house. As long as it holds up and meets quality standards, that's all that matters. Moreover, since it doesn't bear heavy weight, using prefabricated blocks was actually better. In fact, it could have been completed even faster. But it still took 3 days due to the delays with the plumbing, wiring, and sewage systems. Otherwise, it would have been quicker. However, once the squat toilets and other fixtures were installed, the public restroom in Qin Family Village was ready to go. It would only need another couple of days before it could be put into use. Not only that, the restroom was designed to a luxurious standard, featuring hot water in the sinks, mirrors, and even hand dryers for drying hands. If a shower room were added, it could rival the standards of rest areas on highways. The moment the restroom was completed, while Qin Imo was still processing the joy of it, Qin Tianrui was already excited. Great. I'll come here to use the restroom from now on. It's clean, tidy, and spacious. Using the restroom here will definitely have a great atmosphere. Do you really need an atmosphere just for using the restroom? Qin Imo replied, feeling speechless. He casually said, since you like it so much, you can take care of this restroom from now on. What? Are you serious? I'm your brother. You want me to clean the restroom? Qin Tianrui was dumbfounded by his words. Seeing his flustered expression, Qin Imo laughed heartily. Who said you have to clean it? Can't you just hire someone to keep it clean? Where am I supposed to find someone? Qin Tianrui protested. I don't care. After saying that, Qin Imo ran off. He had been thinking about how the restroom was finally done. Don't tell me I have to hire someone to clean up? Qin Tianrui bumped into him. Isn't Qin Imo just going to be a hands-off manager? He simply handed it over to Qin Tianrui. He felt relieved. Even a little worried that Qin Tianrui might get clingy, so he hurried off a bit faster. Qin Tianrui shot a displeased glance at Qin Imo, feeling quite helpless. Hire someone? Maybe just to clean the toilets? He had no experience. Plus, with one men's restroom and one women's restroom, wouldn't that mean he needed to find two people? Where would he even look? Qin Tianrui couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. Fortunately, despite the headache, he was quite sharp, seeing many onlookers from neighboring villages. His eyes suddenly lit up. He approached them. Hey, do you have anything to do at home? Are you free? Want to find some work? It's just a bit dirty. Chapter 117. This is a bit extravagant. Qin Imo would never have imagined that the hiring problem would be solved by Qin Tianrui in less than 5 minutes. He went around the crowd of onlookers and found an old man and an old woman to take on the task. It really didn't take any effort at all. It was true that Qin Mo found it troublesome to find people, but in the countryside, people were often looking for work, especially the elderly. Although cleaning toilets was a bit dirty, for the old man and woman, it was better than doing nothing. Who wouldn't want a job that came knocking at their door? Moreover, the environment of the public restroom in Kanjiakan. To put it bluntly, it wasn't like the old-style squat toilets. It was a proper toilet. Once flushed, it would be clean. How much dirtier could it get? They happily agreed to take the job. Qin Tianrui didn't expect things to go so smoothly. In an instant, everyone was feeling pleased, even thinking about showing off to Qin Imo. Qin Imo, however, was unaware of all this. At this moment, he was still waiting for the system's reward to appear. To his surprise, the system's reward did not arrive as expected, which puzzled him. Logically speaking, since the restroom was built, the reward should have come by now. Why hadn't it arrived? But soon, Qin Imo figured it out. It seemed that since it hadn't been put into use yet, it didn't count as complete, which was why the reward hadn't been issued in time. However, Qin Imo wasn't anxious. It was just a matter of time. Sooner or later, it would come. In fact, it was just as Qin Imo thought. A day later, the restroom was officially in use, and the system's reward was received. Ding! Host gives back to the villagers by building a public restroom for Kanjiakan. Reward, Golden Toilet X1. At the moment he heard this notification, Qin Imo was stunned. Wow, he built a restroom, and the system actually rewarded him with a golden toilet? It looks just like a real toilet, but it's made of pure gold. However, that's not the main point. The main point is how much this reward is worth. Not to mention the smell, doesn't it seem a bit too strong? Well, never mind that. What am I supposed to do with this thing? Qin Imo couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time. I can't just use it myself, can I? That's just too extravagant. It seems like this golden toilet is pretty useless. Well, Qin Imo decided not to say much. After all, it was a gift. What more could one ask for? Besides, it's pure gold. Just think of it as gold. What's wrong with that? This toilet is so heavy. How much would this cost? Thinking of this, Qin Imo felt happy. Just received the system's reward, and now he remembered he had to clean. He quickly found Qin Tianrui. Hey, have you found someone to clean the restroom? Hearing this, Qin Tianrui proudly replied, I found someone long ago. I got someone as soon as you mentioned it. Qin Tianrui pointed casually, and Qin Imo saw an elderly woman and man wearing blue vests. They looked like cleaning staff. Qin Imo was taken aback. Did they find someone that quickly? Qin Tianrui laughed. Not just that. Did you see the brooms they brought? I prepared everything. I even bought a bunch of cleaning supplies. Not only did he find people, but he also prepared the necessary items. Qin Imo gave Qin Tianrui a thumbs up. Then he asked, how much did it cost? I'll transfer the money to you. Qin Tianrui waved his hand. Come on, brother, why are you saying that? You're the one building toilets for the village. Shouldn't I spend some money on supplies? Qin Imo was worried about this. If Qin Tianrui spent money on the village, he wouldn't get anything from the system. He needed to contribute to the village to receive the rewards. If Qin Tianrui spent the money, Qin Imo would end up with nothing. And he didn't have much money to begin with. So Qin Mo said, that's not how it works, brother. What money do you want me to spend? In no time, Qin Imo and Qin Tianrui got into a back and forth. They argued for quite a while until Qin Imo finally said, you think you can spend money for the village? Do you have that right? As soon as Qin Imo said this, Qin Tianrui kicked out. Qin Emo was startled and quickly ran away laughing. To be honest, if others heard that, they would definitely be angry. But the brothers were just joking and didn't mind it. In the end, Qin Tianrui said irritably, "All right, then you transfer the money to me. Why not take advantage of the situation?" Qin Emo smiled and walked back, continuing to laugh. "That's right, brother. You should know my only motivation for making money is to improve our village. If someone else did this, what motivation would I have to earn? Not just for the village, but also for San Yi, Air Nai Nai, and you, all of you. Everything that motivates and supports me comes from here. So, everything in Kanjiakan is up to me." Qin Emo said these words sincerely. Qin Tianrui wiped the corner of his eyes. "Fine, you have the ability. Then I'll just compete with you." He mumbled to Qin Emo, "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and transfer the money to me. I'm really feeling the pinch." Qin Emo laughed heartily. In the blink of an eye, he directly transferred 1 million to Qin Tianrui. Seeing such a large sum of money transferred, Qin Tianrui immediately became unhappy. "Hey, wait a minute, I mean." Before he could finish his sentence, Qin Emo already understood what he meant. He could prevent Qin Tianrui from spending money, but he couldn't give him so much. Qin Emo hurriedly said, "This money I sent for you. It's for you to see what our village lacks and to buy it. Just prepare it. Sometimes I can't manage everything myself. So I'm giving you a bit more to save me from having to give you later." Hearing Qin Emo say this, Qin Tianrui's expression improved a bit. He thought Qin Emo was giving him this money. However, in an instant, Qin Emo began to think about his company's matters. It was time to start considering them. The company needed to be set up properly, and other things hadn't been sorted out yet. This needed to be resolved quickly, when the time comes. Whether it's employee salaries or expenses for Kanjiakan, they will all come from the company's account. He would also find someone responsible for purchasing. This way, it would be easier. It would also prevent Qin Tianrui or others in the village from spending money recklessly. After all, aside from wasting money, this also concerns Qin Mo's rewards. With this in mind, Qin Mo felt it was time to put this on the agenda and handle it. Additionally, he glanced at Qin Tianrui, thinking that once the company was set up, letting Qin Tianrui get busy would also be a way to give him something to do. Chapter 118. Secondhand goods won't work. The older people in Kanjiakan can avoid work if possible. After all, they are of an age. If they can rest, they will. But Qin Tianrui is different. Being so young, how could he just sit idle? He definitely needs to be given some tasks. It must be said that this company is quite suitable for him. Moreover, after the wheat harvest next year, Qin Mo also plans to hand over the fields to Qin Tianrui. He certainly wouldn't let him be idle. That would lead to stagnation. Qin Tianrui still doesn't know that Qin Mo has already arranged this for him and is happily enjoying himself. Seeing him like this, Qin Mo felt that the company's matters needed to be expedited. Initially, he was thinking of being lazy, considering that the new year wasn't far off. He might as well not do it. But now, it's still possible to set things up before the new year. Consequently, the very next day, Qin Mo found Qin Tianrui. "I've opened a company that specializes in handling matters for our village. Security, cleaning, and everything else will be managed by this company. So, there's a vice president position in the company. Would you like to take it?" "Vice president?" Qin Mo smiled at Qin Tianrui. "Isn't it just the vice president? You see, I've saved the best position for you." As soon as Qin Tianrui heard this, he immediately smiled. He then turned to Qin Mo and asked, "Is there a salary?" "Of course, there's no salary. You've become a vice president and still want a salary?" Qin Mo retorted. Qin Tianrui pouted and said, "Are you kidding? Does being a vice president mean no salary? Aren't you just using me for free?" He looked quite displeased. However, Qin Mo knew he was just pretending to be cute. If you really talked to him about salary and benefits, Qin Tianrui might just turn against him. Sure enough, in an instant, Qin Tianrui said, "Fine, if there's no salary, then there's no salary. After all, I've never been a vice president before, I might as well enjoy it." In the blink of an eye, Qin Tianrui was cheerful again. Seeing this, Qin Mo patted Qin Tianrui on the shoulder and laughed. "Don't worry, I won't let you starve." Qin Tianrui shot him an annoyed glance, looking quite speechless. Setting aside Qin Tianrui's attitude, now that he was becoming the vice president, Qin Mo didn't waste any time and quickly handed a pile of documents to Qin Tianrui. Faced with what Qin Mo handed over, Qin Tianrui was very curious. "What are these?" Qin Mo smiled and explained, "Employee information, employment contracts. And here's the company seal. What do you want me to do with these?" Qin Mo continued to smile. "You're the vice president. If I don't give these to you, who should I give them to?" "Oh." Upon hearing this, Qin Tianrui immediately cheered up. So, the authority just came like that? After he took the documents, he was all smiles. However, there were hidden traps in what Qin Mo gave him. In an instant, Qin Tianrui realized what the pitfalls were. First, since you have all this, go set up a bank account for the company. Huh. Oh, right. And take care of the employees' social security. Huh. Also, get each of them a bank card to receive their salaries. Huh. and find an accountant. Before long, Qin Tianrui's face completely darkened. He visibly became flustered. Wow, there are so many things to handle. Wait a minute. Why do I have to do all this? You're the vice president. What else? Do you want our company to be like a shell company? Before you joined, it was indeed a shell company. Can I not do this? Qin Imo turned to leave. Qin Tianrui panicked. I don't know how to do these things. If you don't know, just search online. I believe this won't be a problem for you. Qin Tianrui felt completely trapped by Qin Imo. In the following days, Qin Tianrui was so busy he barely had time to breathe. Just sorting out these documents took countless trips, and whenever he saw Qin Imo, he couldn't help but roll his eyes. He even kept complaining. I've really fallen into your trap. Am I a vice president or a workhorse? You have no idea how running all these errands has turned people into fools. Qin Tianrui's resentment is almost palpable. In light of this, Qin Imo couldn't help but laugh. The reason he hadn't dealt with these matters before was that he knew they would be very troublesome, so he kept procrastinating. But now, seeing Qin Tianrui like this, it was clear that the trouble exceeded his expectations. Otherwise, Qin Tianrui wouldn't be so agitated. Just as Qin Tianrui was about to launch into a tirade against Qin Imo, Qin Imo hurriedly said, Hold on, I'll give you a gift. Hearing this, Qin Tianrui paused, momentarily distracted. What gift? Qin Imo turned and led Qin Tianrui to a brand new car. An S-Class. It looked quite impressive. When Qin Tianrui saw the car, he was taken aback. He hadn't even spoken yet when Qin Imo smiled and said, What do you think? It's a gift for you. No way. Qin Tianrui blurted out, unable to help but examine the car in front of him. To be honest, this car was on par with Qin Mo's A8, perhaps even a bit better. Qin Tianrui was thrilled and immediately asked Qin Imo for the keys, jumping into the car for a moment. But soon he got out, exclaiming, This is indeed a great thing. Really nice. However, as he said this, Qin Tianrui's brows furrowed. Then he added, It's just that. As soon as Qin Tianrui began to speak, Qin Imo knew what he was going to say. So he quickly interjected, You're a vice president. How can you keep driving my car? I won't have a car to drive. He continued, It's just a car. It doesn't compare to my college living expenses. It's not cash, and I never held back with you before. After hearing this, Qin Tianrui's frown finally relaxed a bit. He then jokingly said to Qin Imo, Who said anything about that? What I meant was, did you fill it up with gas? Don't tell me you gave me a second-hand car. Hearing this, Qin Imo laughed heartily. Don't worry, it's definitely a new car. It's fully fueled, and there's a gas card in the car for you to use. Upon hearing this, Qin Tianrui smiled and said, That's acceptable. If you hadn't filled it up, I wouldn't have been able to take it. After all, I don't even have a salary. I can't afford to maintain this car. After saying this, the two exchanged glances and laughed together. Chapter 119, Still Organic Fertilizer. Qin Tianrui accepted the car. At that moment, Qin Imo felt relieved. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to give it away. Thankfully, Qin Tianrui wasn't a narrow-minded person. Between brothers, it's important to support each other, as long as it's not too direct and doesn't affect their friendship. It's worth mentioning that Qin Imo had picked up the car from the county yesterday, since Qin Tianrui had always been driving his car for work. Qin Imo realized he needed to get him a car. He hadn't thought of these things before mainly because he subconsciously felt that it would mostly be rejected and wouldn't be delivered. At that time, he thought that even if Qin Tianrui didn't want it, he could still use another car. Moreover, he also felt that if Qin Tianrui accepted the car, it would mean completing another task of giving back. Wouldn't that mean he could receive the system's reward? In fact, the system didn't disappoint Qin Imo. As soon as Qin Tianrui accepted the car, a voice rang in his mind. Ding! The host has given back to the villagers and gifted a car to Qin Tianrui, receiving a cash reward of 100 million. Once the system's notification ended, Qin Imo couldn't help but feel exhilarated. Wow, how much? 100 million? Cash. He knew the system was generous. The more he gave to the people of Qin Village, the better the rewards he would receive. But he never expected that after gifting a car, the reward would be this generous. 100 million in cash. He had been managing to make do with the money he had, and anything more than that would have been out of reach. He was even counting on daily rewards from the theater troupe. He never thought it would explode like this. Now he truly wouldn't have to worry about money. Not only could he build a street, but he could even extend it by a whole kilometer. With this reward, in that moment, Qin Mo's complexion turned slightly flushed. He couldn't help but exclaim, This is amazing. After muttering that to himself, he couldn't help but look at Qin Tianrui, pondering. If gifting a car brought such a great reward, what if he gifted a house, a villa, or even helped Qin Tianrui find a wife? In short, whatever he could give, he would give. Wouldn't that lead to even more rewards? At that moment, Qin Tianrui noticed Qin Imo looking at him and couldn't help but ask, What are you staring at me for? Qin Imo replied, What is wrong with looking at you? Just then, seeing that Qin Tianrui was about to roll up his sleeves, Qin Imo quickly smiled and said, Never mind, I was just thinking about helping you find a wife when I have some free time. Hearing this, Qin Tianrui's face turned red. The next moment he said, "Get lost. You're not even married yet. I've already been divorced, and you're still worried about your own wife? I don't need one." There was no need for him to blush over it. Qin Emo could see that he was just being stubborn. He was determined to help Qin Tianrui find a wife sooner or later. He was also very curious about what kind of rewards he might get for that. It's worth mentioning that these things couldn't be rushed. Although Qin Emo really wanted the system's rewards, he also understood that while he had just gifted a car and Qin Tianrui accepted it, if he immediately followed it up with a house or something similar, Qin Tianrui would most likely turn against him. He definitely wouldn't want to accept it. If he directly offered it, it would be surprising if Qin Tianrui accepted it without a fuss. He had no idea that Qin Emo had a system. In Qin Tianrui's view, what was the point of sending so many things? What about his own brother? Was it just charity? Was this what brotherly love was about? They were brothers. Yet he treated him like this? Qin Emo could think of all this. So, even though he really wanted to, he wasn't in a hurry. After all, it would happen sooner or later. There were still plenty of system rewards to earn from Qin Tianrui. Anyway, he was still around, right? What could he do? Other than Qin Tianrui, Qin Emo wished he could give each elderly person in the village a car. But clearly, that was unrealistic. It wasn't about the money. However, there was no rush. As the saying goes, there's plenty of time. The car had been given, and Qin Tianrui drove the new car to work. Before leaving, he didn't forget to scold Qin Emo a couple of times. He still hadn't sorted out the company's affairs. At least the financial accountant hadn't been hired yet. He had to keep busy. Seeing this, Qin Emo laughed heartily, enjoying himself as if he were a carefree manager. He did no work and just wandered around the village, looking for places to spend money. It's worth mentioning that the village roads were made of cement. Qin Emo intended to upgrade them to asphalt. However, it wasn't quite the right time. After the new year, they planned to demolish and reconstruct the village. Doing it now would be pointless. To put it simply, many things could only be done after the reconstruction of Qin family village. This was inevitably frustrating, but there was nothing to be done. The new year was approaching. No matter how anxious he was, it wouldn't help. As Qin Emo wandered around, he noticed that Qin family village had become increasingly lively, not to mention other places. The number of street vendors had grown significantly. The public restroom was proving to be useful, with many people coming and going. It was bustling with activity. Ironically, some people from the neighboring village specifically came to use the restroom in Qin family village. Who would believe that? The reason was also quite good. The restrooms in Qin family village were clean and warm. Using the outdoor toilet at home was freezing. Qin Emo couldn't help but laugh at this. He didn't know what to say, but even if people were just coming to use the restroom, it was the kind of liveliness Qin Emo wanted to see. In fact, the elderly in Qin family village were also happy to see it. One old man even said, "No problem. If it's comfortable here, come on over. Just use it. We don't charge." What a generous offer to invite people to use the restroom. After saying this, the old man turned to gossip with others. "It's good that everyone comes to use the restroom. That is all profit. Next year, we'll empty the cesspool and spread it on the fields." Indeed, the elderly in Qin family village knew how to live well. They even thought of this aspect regarding the public restroom. If the wastewater in the cesspool was emptied and spread on the fields, it wouldn't just be fertilizer. It would be organic fertilizer, a rare commodity. Everything that is grown must be organic. Seeing the elderly chatting, Qin Emo couldn't help but smile and turned to leave. Based on their conversation, he truly felt he had nothing to contribute. After turning away, Qin Emo pondered a question. Is the scheduled performance time for the troupe a bit short? If the troupe leaves, even if there are streets and such, wouldn't it feel lacking? It would be great if the troupe could perform here continuously. At that moment, the troupe leader happened to pass by. Qin Emo quickly waved. "Leader, wait a moment. Mr. Qin, is there something you need?" Chapter 120. Are you interested? The troupe leader approached Qin Emo with curiosity. Seeing the curious gaze of the troupe, Qin Emo spoke up, quickly asking, "It's nothing much. Just wanted to chat for a bit." He said cheerfully, "I haven't had time these past couple of days. Is everything all right with your troupe?" Upon hearing this, the leader hurriedly replied, No, everything is fine. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Qin. If there were any issues, we would definitely let you know right away." What problems could there be? We eat well and drink well all day. Besides performing, there is nothing else to worry about. I won't even mention the living conditions. Just the meals alone. Master Zhao changes it up frequently. No one ever gets tired of the food. The leader couldn't help but express his feelings on this matter. For so many years, I've never received such thoughtful treatment anywhere else. Moreover, the audience at the theater has been very accommodating. Everyone takes turns performing. And even if someone's performance has a slight mistake, there are no harsh words. To be honest, not just the leader, but the entire troupe has never encountered such a comfortable situation before. Some even sighed. If the performances could always be like this, it would be simply perfect. Not only that, but the troupe members have also become quite familiar with the villagers of Qin family village and those from nearby villages who often come to watch the shows. They interact harmoniously and happily. Sometimes, when the troop members have free time, they even visit the neighboring village. After expressing his thoughts, just as the leader was reflecting, Chin-Emo spoke again, continuing, "It's good that there are no issues. I was worried you might be uncomfortable." No, nothing of the sort." The leader waved his hands repeatedly. Then, Chin-Emo smiled and said, "To be honest, having your troop come here is a great honor for us in Chin Family Village. With you here, our village has become much livelier." The leader felt flattered by these words. He thought to himself that, to be fair, the honor should be theirs. They've earned good money, received great treatment, and everyone has been wonderful. What more could they ask for? If there's one minor inconvenience, it might just be that this is the countryside, which comes with various inconveniences. Other than that, there's nothing else to mention. Of course, this can be overlooked. After saying this, Chin-Emo sighed again, expressing his only regret. "You won't be able to stay here for long. Time is running out, and indeed, there isn't much time left. It's already been half a month, and in about half a month, the new year will arrive. According to the previous agreement, the troop can only stay until the 29th day of the lunar year, after which they must leave completely." He hadn't thought much about this before, but now that it's been mentioned, the troop leader couldn't help but feel a bit reluctant to leave Chin Family Village. He glanced around and said, "Yes, there's not much time left. I hope we have the chance to come back to Chin Family Village in the future. If Mr. Chin doesn't mind, please invite us over when the time comes. It would be our honor. No matter where we perform then, as long as you say the word. We would be happy to come." The troop leader spoke sincerely, even knowing that if they had a day to return to Chin Family Village, no one in the troop would refuse. Curious about this, Chin-Emo asked, "By the way, does your troop have a fixed performance venue? When you don't have many performance tasks, where do you perform? Is it like a theater where tickets are sold?" Hearing Chin-Mo's curious question, the troop leader awkwardly shook his head. They indeed did not have a fixed performance theater. Throughout the year, they mostly traveled around to perform. When there are no performances, they only have a fixed place to practice diligently. This made the troop leader feel embarrassed, but there was no other way. Traditional opera doesn't earn as much as other forms of entertainment, like crosstalk, which attracts a larger audience and generates more income. Here, even if the troop members are well known, they can't earn a stable income every year. There were even times of financial hardship. That aside, the troupe had once been willing to invest and set up a theater to sell tickets and perform, but it lasted less than a year, with very few attendees each time, leading to significant losses. It was truly unavoidable, which is why they adopted the current model. Compared to ordinary troops, theirs was still considered decent. The troop leader initially wanted to vent about their struggles to Chin-Emo, but realizing he was a benefactor, he forced a smile and said, "No, to be honest, it's very difficult for the troop to survive," leaving the rest unspoken. However, upon hearing this, Chin-Emo smiled, appearing somewhat gleeful. But it was not what it seemed. The next moment, he continued, "Is that so? Would you like to have a fixed performance venue, with guaranteed salaries and such?" "Of course we would," the troop leader replied without hesitation. In reality, that was just a wishful thought, a dream, but unfortunately, such an opportunity did not exist. As soon as the troop leader finished speaking, without waiting for Chin-Emo to ponder what this meant, Chin-Emo continued, "The reason I ask is simple. Actually, after the new year, I plan to rebuild our Chin family village. I want to demolish the entire village and then reconstruct it. You see, the construction site over there is actually a community center where I plan to establish clinics and other facilities. Additionally, I intend to build a street so that Chin family village can gradually become lively." The troop leader was taken aback by Chin-Mo's words, glancing around in confusion. Rebuild the entire Chin family village? Build a street? How much would that cost? This was something the leader couldn't even dare to imagine. Before he could think it through, Chin-Emo continued, "But I've changed my mind. I found that with you all here, our Chin family village will be lively. Look, there are already stalls set up. If we have a street and a theater here, then in the future, Chin family village. So I wanted to ask, are you interested in coming to Chin family village? If possible, I will build a theater as well. Of course, I won't treat you poorly. You will receive your monthly salaries. When there are jobs outside, you can take those, and when there aren't, we can perform at the theater." The leader was stunned. Listening to Chin-Emo, he was momentarily at a loss. Chapter 121, My God. Chin-Emo actually invited the entire troop. What does this mean? He wants to take in the whole troop? To be honest, the leader never expected such a thing to happen. At that moment, he felt completely dazed. Build a theater? Take in the whole troop? Pay salaries? At that moment, the troop leader felt utterly helpless, his mind racing. He instinctively asked, "The theater will be built in the village? But will there be an audience?" Chin-Emo pointed around and smiled. "Look, you've been performing for so many days, and the audience that comes every day is not small. But will the tickets sell?" The leader hadn't even realized it himself. He was already worrying about the ticket sales before agreeing to anything. Hearing this, Chin-Emo couldn't help but laugh. Whether they sell or not doesn't matter. I'm not short on money. I don't care about that. Once he said this, it seemed to snap the leader back to reality. Shin Mo wasn't someone who cared about a little money. He wanted to take in the whole troop, not to make a profit, but simply to provide a stable location for them and keep the village lively. To be honest, it was at that moment that the leader finally understood. His breathing became a bit rapid. A fixed location, stable income, a wealthy boss, easy performance tasks, even fewer demands. In that moment, a flurry of thoughts flashed through the leader's mind. Seeing that he seemed unresponsive, Shin Mo was not in a hurry. He knew he should give the other party some time to think. After all, he only had one sentence to say. The theater troupe is in my hands. Making money is not the goal. I won't rush you. You can discuss it with your team and think it over. After saying this, Shin Mo smiled and left, leaving the troop leader stunned in place. To be honest, keeping the theater troupe was a whim for Shin Mo. However, he felt it was actually quite good. With the troop around, even if one day Chin Family Village developed into streets, the lively atmosphere would only increase. Moreover, the elderly in Chin Family Village loved watching performances. Even when the village was bustling, if the troupe left, they would have nowhere to enjoy the shows. Keeping the troupe not only made Chin Family Village more attractive, but also maintained the elderly's hobby. Wasn't this a way of giving back? Anyway, Shin Mo didn't care about the money. With the troop staying, the system would reward him in ways he couldn't even imagine. Why not? Of course. The troop might not agree, but it didn't matter. Shin Mo had already made up his mind. If they disagreed, it was fine. A theater would definitely be built. If they didn't agree, he could find another one or even form a troupe himself. These were minor issues. Shin Mo was determined to proceed this way. He even thought that besides the theater, there should be activity venues, like sports facilities. Suddenly, Shin Mo realized that according to his previous vision for the development of Chin Family Village, there were so many areas where money could be spent. These things didn't need to be rushed, they could be done slowly. Regardless, Shin Mo was happy. At least there were places to spend money. No, it was about giving back to the elders of Chin Family Village. Notably, after Shin Mo finished speaking, the troop leader returned to the backstage, a bit dazed. At that moment, the front stage was bustling with performances, while the actors backstage were more relaxed, chatting away. What did Master Zhao cook for lunch? I don't know, but it seems like local dishes. Master Zhao said he'd try something different today. That's great. Wow, Master Zhao's cooking is really good. I can't get enough. Who says not? It's a pity that Mr. Chin doesn't cook. If he cooked himself. Oh, don't say that. I'm already drooling. By the way, are you all going to Grandma Chi's house this afternoon? What for? Playing cards. I've already made plans with Grandma Chi. I'll go. I don't have to perform this afternoon. I'm going to play. Chin Family Village is really nice. I almost don't want to leave. While they were chatting backstage, someone noticed the troop leader had come in. Leader, you're here. I was just saying Master Zhao cooked. Suddenly, a group of people noticed that the manager's expression seemed a bit off. Someone asked in surprise, what's wrong, manager? Why do you have that look on your face? Is there a problem? The group quickly turned to look at the manager. Hearing these words, the manager took a deep breath and glanced around at the actors backstage. After a moment, he said, I want to ask you a question. What question? The group looked at the manager curiously. The manager continued. What do you think of Chin Family Village? As soon as he said this, they responded enthusiastically, it's great. Of course, Chin Family Village is wonderful. Do we even need to ask? It's definitely good. I don't even want to leave. We've been to so many places. Is there anywhere better than Chin Family Village? They praised, the people are nice, the food is good, Mr. Chin is great, and the old folks are lovely. Some even started counting the good things about the village. Seeing their reaction, the manager took a deep breath and said, well, let me tell you something. What is it? Mr. Chin said that next year, Chin Family Village will undergo renovations. He plans to completely rebuild the village and even establish streets. Wow. The actors were shocked. How much will that cost? My goodness, Mr. Chin is amazing. Streets? Is he planning to turn Chin Family Village into a town? Oh no, it's a pity we won't be able to see it. I wonder if there will be opportunities in the future. Once everyone finished speaking, the manager added, Mr. Chin also said he wants to build a theater in Chin Family Village. It will be a place for performances at any time. And he asked if our troupe would be interested in becoming part of the theater. As soon as the manager said this, the actors were stunned. In that moment, they realized what it meant. Mr. Chin wants to recruit us? Yes. The entire troupe? Really? Yes. Mr. Chin just asked me. Once this was said, everyone backstage gasped. Oh my goodness. After the manager revealed this, the backstage crew was taken aback. Mr. Chin wanted to recruit their whole troupe? At that moment, many members of the troupe exchanged glances. Of course, this process only lasted a brief moment. The next moment, discussions erupted among the troupe. Wait, is this for real? Recruiting us? If we agree, does that mean we'll have a fixed theater from now on? But my home isn't in Danyang. We are all outsiders. Does that mean we are changing cities for work? Manager, did you agree? Is anyone willing? For a moment, the backstage was lively with chatter. Whether they were willing or happy, everything was in disarray. Some had doubts, others were skeptical, and some were indecisive, asking for specific details. Fortunately, the manager soon revealed all the details. It means that we will have a stable salary in the future. When there are opportunities outside, we can still take them. But how big does the theater need to be? Mr. Chin is very generous and will definitely treat us well. What about the theater's income? Mr. Chin doesn't care about money. At this moment, some people couldn't help but feel excited. Working there is not just a job. I love Chin Family Village. I like it here too. If Mr. Chin can really transform Chin Family Village like this, that would be wonderful. If the leader agrees, I will stay. We go everywhere to earn money. To be honest, before we were uncertain about our livelihoods and often went hungry. Now we have a stable salary. Some people were visibly excited at the moment. Those who perform also want a stable job. Who wouldn't be happy to have a stable income? Moreover, if it were ordinary people, they would likely hesitate a bit. But for Chin Mo and Chin Family Village, there was no hesitation. Just to mention one thing. If Chin Mo is so generous to Chin Family Village, would he neglect them? Chin Mo has substantial financial resources. He is a real benefactor. With such a benefactor, who would worry about instability? We won't have to think about taking side jobs anymore, nor worry about income. Life in this profession is also tough. Naturally, it's a joy to have such good fortune. Of course, there are some exceptions. Some may hesitate or be unwilling. The key is that Chin Family Village is just a rural area. Even if we come, there are considerations about accommodation and food, and some are thinking about development. If Chin Mo really provides a theater, it is indeed stable. However, some people have their own ambitions, thinking about their future development. If it's just fixed in this village, then what else there to develop? As for those two roles, I've actually been quite tired over the years. Having such a place is quite good. Me too. Of course, after all, they are the main performers. If they really stay, then the salary and benefits are another matter. However, regardless of how the troupe members think, everything depends on the leader. After all, this troupe belongs to the leader and he formed it. As long as he agrees. Those who want to stay can stay, and those who don't want to stay can leave. This led someone to impulsively ask the leader, "What do you mean? Have you agreed with Mr. Chin?" It depends on your thoughts. What are you thinking? In fact, the leader already has his own plans. The reason he asked backstage was not to seek everyone else's opinions. After hesitating for a moment, the leader spoke up. Honestly, I'm tired after all these years. Managing the food and drink of our group and leading them to earn money. I also have to find ways to increase everyone's income. Everyone knows the current situation of the opera. To be honest, even if it's not for everyone, I have to think about myself and the future of the troupe. With that, the meaning was basically clear. In an instant, some people were happy while others remained silent. Before long, the leader approached Chin Mo. "Mr. Chin, when will the theater be completed? And what will happen to us before it's finished?" Upon hearing this, Chin Mo understood the implications. He smiled and replied, "Haha. Construction will start after the new year. Don't worry, it will be done in half a year at most. Not only the theater, but even dormitories will be built. You will have places to eat and stay. Additionally, before the theater is completed, you can do whatever you like. And I will still provide a portion of your basic salary." There were still some who were reluctant to stay. Hearing this, Chin Mo didn't press them. That's fine. Everyone has their own aspirations. We won't force anyone who doesn't want to stay. Following that, he had further discussions with the leader. After the leader left, the theater troupe was effectively under Chin Mo's control. The theater project was on track. Of course, Chin Mo made several promises. The leader would still oversee the troupe, providing them with more creative freedom without overwhelming performance requirements. In reality, Chin Mo didn't care much about these details. Having the troupe around simply made Chinja village more lively. The elderly in the village also found joy in it. When Chin Tianrui learned that the entire theater troupe had been taken in by Chin Mo, he was momentarily stunned. "What? You took in the whole troupe?" "That's right. I plan to build a theater in our village, so anyone who wants to watch a play can go directly to the theater." This statement left Chin Tianrui speechless. Chin Mo had never mentioned this to him, making him unable to contain his surprise. "Wow, are you serious?" He then asked Chin Mo, "Do you have the funds?" Upon hearing this, Chin Mo couldn't help but smile. "I just received 100 million. How could I not have money? Moreover, this money came from Chin Tianrui himself." Chin Mo then shared, "I just secured a funding of 100 million. Hearing this, Chin Tianrui gasped and felt a wave of relief. This was indeed a substantial amount of money. After contemplating, he couldn't help but say to Chin Mo, "Although you have the money, it needs to be spent wisely. To be honest, go ahead and build the theater. But I have one request, and I hope you can remember it." "What request?" Chin Mo was curious about what Chin Tianrui would say next. Chin Tianrui licked his lips and said, "Since you're building a theater, could you also add a footbath facility?" Chin Mo was utterly stunned by this request. Initially, he expected to hear something astonishing from Chin Tianrui. Perhaps a suggestion or advice. He never anticipated this. Asking for a foot bath facility. Qin Imo looked at Qin Tianrui in shock, as if he were staring at a stranger. He never expected him to be such a person. With those thick brows and big eyes, he thought he was a good guy. Who would have imagined? At this moment, Qin Tianrui felt a bit embarrassed under Qin Mo's gaze. After a brief awkward silence, he said, "Just kidding, I was just saying that casually." When Qin Tianrui said this, there was a hint of regret in his tone. Seeing Qin Mo's reaction, it seemed that the foot spa idea was off the table. What a pity. If there were a foot spa, they could enjoy it right in the village. That would be such a treat. Hearing Qin Tianrui's words, Qin Imo shot him a disdainful glance and replied, "Is that all you can think of? Why not just go for a full bathhouse instead of a foot spa? You can have both foot baths and showers, a one-stop service." Qin Tianrui had braced himself for a lecture from Qin Imo, but was caught off guard by this unexpected turn. He almost twisted his waist from the surprise. After glancing at Qin Imo, he chuckled and said, "I thought you were a good guy? Turns out you can play around even better than I can, huh?" The two brothers exchanged glances and couldn't help but laugh at each other. But to be fair, Qin Imo was genuinely intrigued by the idea of a bathhouse. Even if the Qin family village was being rebuilt and the houses were improving, nothing could compare to the comfort of a good bath. Besides, with the streets being developed, how could there not be a bathhouse? They had theaters for mental enjoyment. Why not have something for physical pleasure as well? At that moment, Qin Imo was truly excited. He felt it was necessary to have a chat with a construction company. Meanwhile, Qin Tianrui chimed in, "I think the bathhouse shouldn't be too big. A smaller one will do, right? We don't have any ulterior motives, do we? It's mainly for the convenience of the old folks in our village, right?" "Exactly. And we should find some pretty young girls to help out," he added. "Isn't that right?" Qin Tianrui replied, "That makes sense. Mainly because the younger ones are more agile." "Is that what you mean?" "Ah, yes, that's exactly what I meant." The two brothers were so caught up in their conversation that they forgot about everything else. Fortunately, not long after, Qin Imo received a phone call. "Mr. Qin, your helicopter has arrived." The call made Qin Mo's spirit lift. The helicopter rewarded by the system had actually arrived. Upon hearing this, Qin Imo quickly replied, "I'm on my way. Just give me the address, and I'll head over now." After hanging up, he immediately called Lu Jianming. "Come with me." "Sure." Lu Jianming agreed readily. Soon, after half a day's time, a helicopter took off from Donyang City, heading straight for the location of Qin Family Village. Normally, it would take an hour or two to drive from Qin Family Village to Donyang City. But the helicopter was different. Half an hour ago, a helicopter appeared over Qin Family Village, hovering above. The roar of the helicopter drew the attention of the entire village, leading to a flurry of discussions. "Is that a plane? It's a helicopter, right? Why is there a plane in our village? What's going on? I don't know." This scene even attracted onlookers from the surrounding areas, who momentarily forgot about their entertainment. Fortunately, the helicopter didn't keep them guessing for long. Soon, it descended from above, prompting the crowd below to quickly disperse to allow for a smooth landing. Once the helicopter was stable on the ground, a figure jumped out. "Mr. Qin, President Qin. Hey, why did Xiao Mo come down from that helicopter? Is he the one flying it?" In an instant, the villagers appeared somewhat bewildered. Whether it was the theater troupe, the audience from nearby villages, or the elderly residents of Qin Family Village, no one expected such a scene. Luckily, Sun Yi approached first. "Xiao Mo, what's going on with this helicopter?" "Yeah, Xiao Mo, where did this helicopter come from?" Faced with these questions, Qin Imo smiled and replied, "I bought it." Upon hearing this, the surrounding people were momentarily stunned. "Wait, you bought a helicopter?" "Yes. What did you buy it for? Isn't it just a plane?" Qin Fugua also chimed in with this question. Seeing this, Qin Imo quickly replied, "Uncle Fugua, you're just in time. Here's the thing. After the new year, I plan to have all the farmland in our village not cultivated anymore. Just hand it over to me, and ergo, we'll take care of it from now on." Qin Fugua waved his hand. "That's no problem. But what about the helicopter?" Qin Imo smiled again. "Well, you see, people nowadays are using planes for spraying pesticides. It's really fast. In just a few minutes, you can cover many acres. I thought, why not buy a helicopter for that purpose?" "Wait, you bought this helicopter to spray pesticides?" The reaction from the elderly villagers was one thing, but the theater troupe and the onlookers were utterly shocked. They knew that modern farming is fully mechanized and that spraying pesticides is often done with drones. However, here, it was an actual helicopter? Is it really suitable for spraying pesticides? Some in the crowd couldn't help but twitch their lips. Sun Yi, listening to all this, couldn't resist asking, "Spraying with a plane is indeed convenient, but isn't such a large aircraft quite expensive?" "Expensive? It didn't cost a dime. Everything is provided by the system." However, Qin Imo casually said, "It's not a lot of money, just a matter of hundreds of thousands." "Hey, I didn't take it seriously. Mainly, it's for convenience." "Hundreds of thousands?" The three elders nodded, thinking, that really isn't expensive. They didn't find hundreds of thousands to be expensive at all. It's worth noting that this group of elderly people earned their money through farming, and after a year, They barely made around 10,000. To them, hundreds of thousands didn't seem expensive. Speaking of which, it was indeed Qin Mo who spent a lot. Subconsciously, he made them think this way. If viewed from this perspective, Qin Mo's way of spending money here and there, hundreds of thousands seemed quite acceptable. There was another reason for this. The helicopter had already been purchased, and if they found it expensive, would he not spend it? At least that was how the elderly thought. It's noteworthy that Qin Mo gifted a car to Qin Tianrui, which the elderly in Qin family village were all aware of. However, when it came to matters between the two brothers, the elders didn't say a word, only feeling happy. Some even secretly wiped away tears, feeling reassured that the brothers could help each other. Of course, let us not talk about the car for now. Just the helicopter, which they didn't find expensive, mainly because Qin Mo mentioned a low price casually. The actual price of the helicopter was something others didn't understand. But the young people did. Some young members of the troop secretly took out their phones to search. In an instant, they whispered to those nearby. S-300 CBI, single-engine helicopter. Costs several million. The person beside them was taken aback. How do you know so much? The young person raised their phone, image recognition. It doesn't matter if you don't know the model, just search, and it shows up. Once this was said, everyone was shocked. Wait, this helicopter costs millions? Didn't Mr. Qin say it was hundreds of thousands? Are you stupid? That's what he said to those old folks. They couldn't believe it. A helicopter worth millions for spraying pesticides. My goodness, Mr. Qin is too generous. He is really wealthy. It was clear that a drone costing 20,000 could do the job, yet he brought back a helicopter worth millions? These people doubted how many years it would take to earn back the cost of a helicopter from the land in Qin family village. However, this also made some members of the troop decide, I've made up my mind. I will stay here. Mr. Qin is so rich. There is no way we will be treated poorly in this troop. Such a generous boss was too extravagant. Didn't you say you want to develop in the future? What development? I think staying in Qin family village is a great opportunity for me. They never expected that bringing back a helicopter would change the minds of some who initially wanted to leave the troop. They also planned to stay in the theater troupe. Aside from that, some older members of the troop hurriedly said, don't tell the villagers how much this helicopter really costs. Yes. The boss said it's hundreds of thousands, so it's hundreds of thousands. Why can't we say it? Do you really need to ask? The boss intentionally said it was less, definitely to avoid worrying the elderly in the village. Isn't that right? Alright, we definitely won't say anything. The boss didn't even bring it up. Everyone around seemed to have come to an unspoken agreement. It's worth mentioning that the old man was still pondering over the hundreds of thousands. He thought, a helicopter only costs hundreds of thousands? Oh, I must be getting old and out of touch with the times. I thought it would cost a lot more. No one around responded to his words. It really is a lot of money. They were just keeping it from him. In the blink of an eye, the helicopter had completely landed. The pilot also got off the plane and handed over all the documents and keys to the boss. Boss, I'll leave it here. Here are the keys and the operation manual. The boss took them and said, alright, thank you. Please wait a moment. I'll have someone send you back. Thank you, boss. Shortly after, Lu Jiaming drove back. He was the one who set off first, and it was only now that he arrived. This shows how fast the helicopter was. The boss had Lu Jianming take the pilot away, and that was the end of it. It's worth noting that although the helicopter was handed over to the boss, it couldn't be moved from this spot. The main reason was that no one could fly it. While on the road, the boss even tried to see if he could recruit the pilot, but the pilot wasn't interested, so that was that. This left the helicopter as just a display here for now. Fortunately, yesterday, someone called the boss to say they had found a lead on a pilot. This relieved the boss's worries. Regarding the boss's arrangements, both Zhao Yulong and Zhou Ying were quite attentive. These two had been busy looking for a pilot for the past few days. Fortunately, they were making progress. Speaking of which, having the helicopter parked in the village was a highlight. Those who came to watch the show not only got to enjoy the performance, but could also see what a helicopter looks like. Although it was just a helicopter, many people in the countryside had never seen one in person. They couldn't help but marvel at it. Moreover, these people knew their limits and just looked without getting too close. The security guard stood around the helicopter to keep an eye on it. When Qin Tianrui returned, he noticed this new addition in the village. After a moment of silence, everyone seemed stunned. Their gazes at the boss were a bit strange. How much exactly? Over 3 million. The boss didn't hide this from him. After hearing this, Qin Tianrui, wow, over 3 million for a plane. And you're just using it for games? Qin Tianrui sighed. 3 million. That could open a foot massage parlor. Qin Mo replied, really? You're still thinking about that foot massage parlor? Qin Mo was at a loss for words. But Qin Tianrui quickly added, alright, phone you called me. He is coming back. Who? Qin Mo was taken aback by Qin Tianrui's words. Seeing his confused expression, Qin Tianrui explained, Qin Fengyu, you don't remember? Qin Mo hurriedly responded, wait, are you talking about Qin Jinni's son? That Qin Fengyu? The one around my age? Yes, that is the one. Qin Mo was stunned. Are you sure you didn't get the wrong person? How does he have your number? Is it really him? Qin Tianrui nodded. Yes, it's him. No one else. I can't be mistaken. He has my number because his dad called me before, and he wrote it down. I haven't changed my number. Wow. Qin Mo was shocked for a moment, and then said, really? That's great. Someone from Qin family village is coming back. Chapter 125. This chef is clever. Qin Mo was extremely happy. Someone from Qin family village was returning. How could Qin Mo not be happy about that? More people are good, especially younger ones. This way, Qin family village can sustain itself. To put it bluntly, if the elderly in Qin family village were to pass away, it would be hard to bear. Without people, Qin Mo's system would have no use. If there were no one left in Qin family village, where would he give back? This is great. The more people return, the happier Qin Mo is. It's not just about the system. It's also about reunion and togetherness, which is something to be joyful about. Speaking of which, if it were someone else returning, Qin Mo wouldn't be so surprised. But this Qin Fengyu is different. Qin Mo was quite astonished. The name Qin Fengyu was becoming fuzzy in his memory until Qin Tianrui mentioned it. Qin Fengyu was different from the others in Qin family village, and also different from Qin Mo and Qin Tianrui. Although Qin Tianrui was a son-in-law, he at least grew up in Qin family village. In Qin Mo's memory, Qin Fengyu was a playmate from his childhood. However, when Qin Mo was around 8 or 9, Qin Fengyu's father passed away from diabetes, and his mother had also died early. Before Qin Jinny passed, he entrusted Qin Fengyu to a distant relative. Later, it was heard that that relative gave Qin Fengyu to someone else. Not long after, Qin Fengyu was sent to another place. For many years, Qin Fengyu's household registration remained in Qin family village, but he was constantly being taken in by different people. Until now, after so many years, it was thought that there would be no news of Qin Fengyu. Unexpectedly, he managed to contact Qin Tianrui and was thinking of returning to Qin family village. Qin Mo was delighted and kept cheering. Good, good. He suddenly remembered to ask again. By the way, when is he coming back? Did he say exactly when? Qin Tianrui spoke up. It should be in the next couple of days. He mentioned on the phone that I should go to the town to pick him up. He is afraid he won't find his way back to the village. Hearing this, Qin Mo was momentarily lost in thought. It makes sense. He left Qin family village when he was young. It has been decades since then. Just thinking about Qin family village is already impressive. It's normal not to find the way. Qin Mo sighed. I just don't know if he will stay after he comes back. Well, who knows? It's good enough that he has the heart to come back and visit. Qin Mo nodded. I hope that after Qin Fengyu returns, he won't leave again. It's better for him to stay in Qin family village. With him here, it will eventually become a different place. This is undeniable. In a moment, Qin Mo asked, have you told third uncle and the others? Not yet. Come on, let us go tell them together. In no time, the two brothers found the elders of Qin family village and shared the news. Upon hearing this, the elders were filled with emotions. Fengyu was very obedient as a child. He was a good kid. His father could have lived longer with diabetes, but he didn't want to live anymore. Diabetes meant no sweets. But he still ate watermelon in the summer. Do you two remember? When Qin Jinny passed away, there wasn't even a coffin. Just a grass mat for a hasty burial. It's all this brat's fault. At that time, Fengyu was such a small child. He should have lived a few more years for the child's sake. Before he died, I said that Fengyu could just stay in Qin family village, and we would take care of him. But he insisted on finding a family. This made the child wander for so many years. I thought the child was gone. It's good to know he is still here. The elders of Qin family village sighed again after hearing the news, some even secretly wiping away tears. The elderly are easily sentimental. They can't help but feel emotional when they think of the past. Let us put this matter aside for now. After a day, while Qin Mo was busy, he received a call from Qin Tianrui. He said that Qin Fengyu had already arrived. Without thinking, Qin Mo replied, then you go pick him up. I'll tidy up at home. All right. Qin Tianrui agreed and quickly drove out. Qin family village isn't far from the town. At this time, the village was bustling with activity. Third uncle and a few others bought some firecrackers. A group of elders stood at the village entrance, setting up the firecrackers, waiting for the person to arrive to set them off. Qin Mo wasn't idle either. He hadn't cooked since the last birthday banquet. But now he went to prepare a meal. After all, someone from Qin family village is returning from afar after more than a decade. Qin Mo would be the one to cook, making it a welcome feast. Upon hearing that Qin Mo was going to cook, everyone in Qin family village is very happy. The elderly folks are not overly greedy, but the people from the opera troupe are different. Mr. Qin is cooking. This noon, Mr. Qin is in the kitchen. They say someone has returned to their village, and he is cooking personally. Haha, it seems Mr. Qin is quite pleased. So we are in for a treat. It's not that Chef Zhao's cooking is bad, but the dishes prepared by Qin Mo are simply too good. After the last birthday banquet, the members of the opera troupe have been reminiscing about it. Some even remarked, honestly, if Mr. Qin cooks every meal at the theater, I wouldn't want to leave. I could even skip going home for the new year. Isn't the treatment provided by Chin Mo good enough? Isn't the theater good enough? It seems they are all focused on Chin Mo's culinary skills, huh? Speaking of which, the happiest ones about Chin Mo cooking are probably Chef Zhao and the two chefs from the hotel. Just like what was said during the birthday banquet. Zhou often sends a couple of hotel chefs to Chin Family Village to help with cooking and learn some skills. In the past, Chin Mo would only offer guidance when he had time. When things got busy, he didn't have time to teach these chefs. After their shifts, the hotel chefs felt a bit regretful. They learned a little, but not much. Fortunately, they arrived just yesterday and happened to catch Chin Mo cooking. Their excitement was beyond words. Haha, when old Lu and the others came before, the boss didn't even cook. Of course, he didn't have time to attend to them. It's just our luck that we arrived when the boss was about to cook. Now we can learn something. By the way, let us record it. We need to capture the process of the boss cooking so we can learn it slowly later. These two chefs are quite clever. They don't mind learning from Chin Mo, plus, if they master it, it benefits the hotel. The hotel chefs have already signed contracts under Zhou Ying's arrangement. If they learn, it's actually a good thing. Of course, there is no time to teach them. How much they can learn depends on themselves. Recording is also good. They can share it with other chefs when they return and learn from each other. While Chin Mo is cooking, the other chefs are assisting. In no time, Chin Tianrui drove back to the entrance of Chin Family Village. As soon as he arrived, he saw the elderly folks standing at the village entrance. He hadn't even thought about opening the car door yet when Qin Fugua hurriedly called out to light the firecrackers. Suddenly, the sound of firecrackers filled the air. At that moment, a young man got out of the car. He was not very old, looking about the same age as Chin Mo, and appeared quite refined. Upon seeing the elderly folks in front of him, his eyes turned red. He suddenly took 2 steps forward and then knelt down with a thud. After that, he called out loudly, "Third grandpa, second aunt." Seeing such a scene, the elderly people of Chin Family Village were both surprised and astonished. How many years had it been? How old was Qin Fengyu when he left? Unexpectedly, he still recognized so many people, and not a single name was wrong. He remembered them all clearly. He might not even remember the way home, but he hadn't forgotten a single person. The elderly folks of Chin Family Village, after their initial surprise, felt a wave of emotion wash over them. They hurried forward, saying, "Hey, get up, good child." It was another touching scene. However, Chin Mo was busy attending to other matters and had no time to witness this. Fortunately, not long after, once Chin Mo finished his tasks, Qin Fengyu appeared before him. His eyes slightly red, clearly having cried quite a bit. But in an instant, he stood in front of Chin Mo and called out boldly, "Mo go." Hearing this address, Chin Mo smiled broadly and responded, "Hey." It had been many years since he had heard that title. Qin Fengyu used to call him that when they were young. Before long, at the dining table, Chin Mo and Qin Fengyu began to chat. The elderly folks around occasionally chimed in. In contrast to the warm reminiscing in Chin Family Village, the theater troupe was busy eating. After finishing their meal, they had plans to perform a dramatic reunion scene, which was quite thoughtful of them. Chin Mo casually inquired about Qin Fengyu's situation and learned that he had been sold to various families over the years. Today to this family, tomorrow to that one, until he was about 13 or 14, when he finally encountered a good family that allowed him to go to school and provided for him. Unfortunately, that couple had passed away a few years ago, leaving behind only their daughter. As for the inheritance, it had all been divided up. With no other choice, Qin Fengyu started working after school to support his half-sibling's education. This continued until now. Overall, it had been a life full of hardships and challenges. After he finished speaking, Chin Mo noticed that there was a young girl, about 15 or 16 years old, accompanying Qin Fengyu. This made Chin Mo sigh, not knowing what to say. At that moment, Qin Fengyu smiled again and said, "Although so many years have passed, I have always kept Chin Family Village in my heart and never forgotten. Whether it's third grandpa, second aunt, or brother Tianrui, I remember them all clearly. I often think about them. I thought I might never return in this lifetime, but in the past 2 years, I earned some money working outside and discussed with my sister about coming back to build a house since I am from Chin Family Village. Finally, I got in touch with my second brother." Qin Fengyu spoke lightly about it. However, only he knows how much hardship he has endured. Following that, Qin Fengyu laughed and said, "I didn't expect you, Mo Gu, to be doing so well now. I was thinking that when I returned, I could do something. But now it seems like I won't be needed at all." Upon hearing this, Qin Mo smiled and said, "I haven't even spoken yet, and San Yi is already laughing. You brothers are all thinking the same. Xiao Mo is like this, Tianrui is like this, and Fengyu you too. You all want to do something for the village. With young people like you around, we..." As he spoke, San Yi took a deep breath, not sure if it was out of comfort or emotion. Qin Mo then quickly asked Qin Fengyu, "You said you originally planned to come back to build a house? So you're not planning to leave, right?" "Right, not leaving. I'm from Chin Family Village. I'm not going anywhere." Good. Qin Mo was very happy. He then looked at Qin Fengyu's sister beside him. Seeing this, Qin Fengyu smiled and said, my sister will also be one of us in the village. She's not leaving either. Of course, if she gets married elsewhere in the future. I can't control that. When Qin Fengyu said this, Zhang Tingting's face turned red, and she shot a reproachful glance at him. Hearing this, Qin Imo laughed heartily. No matter where she gets married, she will always be from our Qin family village. After saying that, Qin Imo paused and said, by the way, wait for me a moment. After saying this, Qin Imo quickly went into the house. Before long, a pile of things was brought out. Just like when he met Qin Yangyang. This time, instead of a watch, he brought a bracelet for the girl. As he handed it over, he said, Fengyu, you have to call me brother. Since you are Fengyu's sister, that makes you my sister. These things aren't worth much. They are just a little gift from me as your older brother. Qin Imo said this very seriously. This made Zhang Tingting look a bit at a loss as she glanced at Qin Fengyu. There was no way around it. The things Qin Imo gave looked quite valuable. Seeing this, Qin Fengyu paused for a moment and then smiled. Take it. Since it's from Mo Gu, just accept it. After this was said, Zhang Tingting finally accepted the items, timidly thanking Qin Imo. After giving the gifts, Qin Imo didn't hear any notification sound in his mind. But his smile didn't fade at all. Zhang Tingting wasn't from Qin family village. Even if she stayed there in the future, according to the system's logic, she wouldn't count. But that didn't matter. It was just one less system reward. It didn't affect Qin Imo. To him, Zhang Tingting was part of Qin family village. After Qin Imo gave the gifts, when Zhang Tingting called him brother, he felt happy. It's true, having an extra sister feels different. However, Qin Tianrui was not pleased. With Qin Mo's actions, he had forgotten everything. Damn, I didn't prepare anything. Thinking of this, Qin Tianrui pulled Qin Mo over. Do you have anything left? Lend me something as a gift for the meeting. In chapter 127, I thought you were going to be a bachelor for life. Since Qin Mo had already given his meeting gift, Qin Tianrui naturally couldn't be without one. He hadn't thought of this in advance and hadn't prepared anything. So he had to find Qin Mo faced with this situation. Qin Mo couldn't help but smile. Fortunately, he had plenty of things. He simply let Qin Tianrui choose whatever he wanted. In the end, Qin Tianrui picked a bag and packed a red envelope. That was that. After selecting the items, Qin Tianrui sighed at Qin Mo seriously. How much stuff do you have at home? There are electronics and all kinds of luxury goods. If someone didn't know better, they'd think you were a thief. Did you buy all these? With so much at home, can it be safe? To be honest, when he went to get the items, seeing so many things in Qin Mo's cabinet left Qin Tianrui dumbfounded. He usually didn't pay attention to it. Who knew Qin Mo had so many items in his room? Just those luxury goods alone, let alone anything else. Each one was worth quite a bit. There were even various gold and silver items. What was going on? Was he trying to reach for the sky? Even if you had money, you wouldn't play like this. All those things combined must start from a few million, right? As a result, Qin Tianrui's gaze towards Qin Mo changed. Faced with this situation, Qin Mo couldn't help but smile. In fact, all these items were rewards from the system. He had no place to put them, so he simply piled them up in his room. And this wasn't even the most surprising part. Qin Tianrui didn't know that there was a golden toilet in the cabinet next door. If he saw that, his eyes would probably go wide. However, Qin Mo casually said, oh, these are all gifts from doing business. Some are payments in kind, and some are just given outright. I'm not short on money, and I don't need these things, so I just leave them wherever. Hearing Qin Mo say this, Qin Tianrui had no temper left. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. After a while, he muttered, good thing we're brothers. Otherwise, I think you were showing off. Haha. Qin Mo grinned at this remark. Speaking of which, Qin Tianrui had a carefree personality. After finishing this sentence, he suddenly looked at Qin Mo with a sly glance. By the way, if you have any ladies' bags or jewelry, save a couple of pieces for me in the future. Qin Mo was taken aback. He saw Qin Tianrui blushing as he said, if I find a wife in the future, wouldn't that come in handy? I wouldn't have to buy them elsewhere. I'll pay you whatever it costs. Qin Tianrui almost became shy saying this. Hearing this, Qin Mo was shocked and opened his mouth. What? It's not about whether to give or not. Is money the main concern? I don't care about these things. We're brothers. What does money matter? Even if I give it to you, I might just get a system reward in return. The key point is, you're actually thinking about marrying a wife? Oh my. Qin Mo pretended to be surprised and shouted. Seeing this, Qin Tianrui hurriedly said, shut up, don't shout. He quickly glanced outside and, seeing that no one was paying attention, murmured, what is wrong with me marrying a wife? Qin Mo laughed and said, earlier when I said I would help you find a wife, you were so stubborn. I thought you were going to be a lifelong bachelor. I didn't expect you still have those ambitions. Qin Tianrui's face turned beet red. The two brothers started playfully wrestling. Speaking of which, someone had returned to Qin family village, which was indeed a matter of great joy. However, it also came with its troubles. Qin Fengyu's house had long since collapsed. just like Qin Tianrui's. Fortunately, Qin Tianrui was a bit better off. After getting married, his house had gone untouched for a while. The village's elderly had tidied it up a bit, but given their age, they lacked the experience for proper repairs. With no one living there, the house had suffered some damage from the wind and rain. Qin Fengyu's old house was in a worse state. It used to be a mud brick house, and after he was sent away, it was completely flooded during a heavy rain one year. Now, the side of the old home was nothing but a wasteland. It wasn't even appropriate to call it ruin.